How, Dao We won again! This is good. But what is best in life?
The open steppe, fleet horse, falcons at your wrist, and the wind in your hair.
Wrong! Conan, what is best in life?
To crush your enemies, see them driven before you, and to hear the lamentation of their women.
That is good. That is good.
That's right. We're going to be talking about some right-wing propaganda from a guy. Now, wait a minute. Before everybody on Apple Podcasts with their one-star review says it's too political over at Binge Movies 1. This is a whole brand new season. So all the offenses from previous years get erased. It's a whole new year, too. It's been 4 months since I've had a ranking episode season. So I get to start over from scratch. That's number one. Number two. When we're going to dig into some of the man's comments himself, he has very publicly, up to and including in his documentary about himself, Milius, has basically said, I write right-wing propaganda. So I don't have any problem with it. It's going to be part of the text of his work, more so than other authors, because it isn't subconscious. This fucker's consciously putting his shit in there. Did I happen to know that I'll be doing this episode, the unofficial series I've been doing on the movie Brats, during an ultra right-wing American hostile coup and dismantling of democracy in the administrative state? I did not. It just happened to be on the schedule. Did I happen to know that the person who was supposed to be scheduled would be very ill and not be able to do it? So I'd have to call a police officer who was a weapon and tool of the state.
No, don't say that.
But also a tool of real STL, real spoilers, your tool, my tool, the Trump administration's tool.
No,
Joe.
No. Oh, man. I tweeted, when Binge Movie calls,
Yeah.
you answer the call.
This was originally supposed to be Lindsay Washburn.
Yes.
I don't
send much
normally
love to Lindsay.
call out people and say, well, they fucking flaked. Lindsay didn't flake.
Yeah.
Lindsay watched all of the movies we were going to record, and then she couldn't do it.
Yeah.
So, in a pinch, day of, I called you and I said, you got 10 hours?
I do.
Yeah.
If I've learned anything from podcasting with Matt Basler, is you just plow through it.
Yeah. And you said, hey, man,
Yeah.
I'm fucking there.
I'm
I'll
in.
join. I'm not join, but I will reopen this app I don't fucking use just so I can talk to you.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's funny watching all 5 of these. By the time I got to the last one, I was like, boy, this guy has some hot takes.
kind of the same, isn't it? Across the board.
Yeah.
And here's the other thing. Okay. Yeah. We'll get into it because we're going to talk about Dillinger, which is his directorial debut, but we're actually going to start the year before in 1972 with a movie he didn't direct, but he wrote, or at least co-wrote, Jeremiah Johnson, which is an adaptation of a book with Robert Redford. It's where that famous gif of
It's
Robert
an
Redford
infamous
comes
meme,
from.
yeah.
Yeah, the meme. Big Wednesday, which there's a lot to talk about there, Conan the Barbarian, and Red Dawn. I had seen probably 3 of the 5 of these before.
Which 3?
Various and sundry parts of my life. I'd seen Jeremiah Johnson, and at the very least parts of it, because it was one of my dad's favorite movies. More on that later. And I definitely had seen parts of Conan, although Lindsay and I were going back and forth, even after she couldn't do the episode. I'm like, well, I'm still going to talk to you about this shit. And so we were texting back and forth, and I was like, hey, actually I was texting her while I was watching. I was like, I don't think I have seen this all the way through, because what the fuck is this? And then I was like, oh, wait a minute. I think I have seen it. And we were just going back and forth.
Yeah.
And then I've seen Red Dawn.
I think I've seen the same 3 for me, including the remake Red Dawn.
And that is also terrible.
It is terrible.
Yeah.
I must have seen Barbarian and Destroyer very close together.
That's the other thing, because I I feel like they
I was like,
ran
where's
on
Wilt
television
Chamberlain?
back to back. That's my opinion.
Sure.
As if they would just put like a 5-hour block of Conan on TNT or USA or whatever.
Yeah.
Because I think I've seen Destroyer. I don't know that I've ever seen the entirety of this one, but I've definitely seen scenes from this one that are very reminiscent to me. So it's all kind of a mess. But I would, even though I had seen the Milius documentary, and even though I knew he had
I have not watched that.
I remember it being pretty good. I did not revisit it for this episode. Even though I knew he had his proclivities, and he is famous for his proclivities because the character of Walter in Big Lebowski is based on him.
Oh, really?
Yes, because John Goodman already kind of looks like him. They dressed him in the way John Milius was dressing for real at that time. And
That's
all of his like right-wing rants and shit that are in that movie, some of those are verbatim things that John Milius has said around his friends in real life. He's fucking crazy. Now, if I'm not mistaken, he actually never served in the armed forces, but he does like to dip into a little thing called stolen valor from here.
Ooh.
There. That's what that's from my recollection. So he, I've been doing this unofficial series of the movie brats. We did Spielberg, we did Coppola, we did, we've already done Carpenter. We did a few more from the kind of USC film school that all ran in circles together.
Hello. I was on one of those episodes with you.
Oh, De Palma. We did De Palma. Yes. That's right. He's unofficial. Yeah, he's a part of that. And so we did, we talked about the movie Brad's Son. And so Milius is kind of like their distant brother he's not quite crazy uncle. He's like crazy brother. Because
he's cousin Oliver.
He's the cousin Oliver. A lot of uncredited rewrites on a lot of their movies.
Interesting.
There's a mythology that he perhaps wrote Quint's speech, the USS Indianapolis speech in Jaws. Now that's been contested.
One of the greatest monologues of all time.
It's been contested. It's been not contested. It's been proven. It's been disproven. Part of the issue is that he would just kind of be on these guys' sets because they were friends and they would invite him. And then a scene wouldn't work and he'd be like, what if he says this? And then they would get on a typewriter or whatever and he'd punch a bunch of stuff out and everybody would be throwing ideas out. And then boom, that's the scene they shoot it. He wouldn't necessarily get writing credits on stuff, but and vice versa. They would work on some of the movies that he did. So he is this sort of figure that never quite got his due because he never took off as a director, and I think for good reason.
Yeah.
And he did write, obviously, but he kind of faded out of working. Really,
I was gonna say I went through his IMDb because I was like, okay, Conan was a big movie in my childhood,
and there's a dispute there because is that Oliver Stone's movie? But because Oliver Stone wrote the original version, but Milius rewrote the entire thing allegedly.
Okay, because Red Dawn again was another one of those Brat Pack movies that was on fairly regularly, and I recognized his name. But when I'm going through his IMDb, I was like, oh man, I haven't seen any of this stuff. Like, I had not seen Big Wednesday. I had not seen Dillinger. Dillinger was one that I remember the box art vividly because it was all, nobody ever rented it at Blockbuster.
I think the thing is he's known mostly as a writer, really. And I think his biggest claim to fame when he dies will probably be Apocalypse Now. That's the thing he's most known for. Because a lot of those really out there speeches and rants are his. That's his. He wrote that movie.
Right.
Yeah, but I mean, he's a writer on Clear and Present Danger. He wrote that Geronimo movie, if you remember that one.
I do remember that
Daniel
one.
Day-Lewis?
No, or is it?
It's West Study.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
He probably only has maybe 24.
Clear and Present Danger, also a novel by a right-wing guy. Big time.
He probably has maybe 24 credits to his name. And after 2001, he basically stops working. He has uncredited revisions that his friends have said, he worked on this. Dirty Harry, Jaws, Uncommon Valor, Temple of Doom, Hunt for Red October, Eraser, Saving Private Ryan, Behind Enemy Lines. He produced, or he produced, quote unquote. He
got his name in the credits.
He had points on.
Yeah.
I Want to Hold Your Hand, Hardcore, 1941, and Used Cars.
Have you seen Hardcore?
Yes, I watched it 3 times in a month.
Oh my god! What? That is not an easy movie to watch.
No.
I
live in a dark place, Joe.
Yeah, that's fair.
We'll get to him because he's got some connections to some other movies you've heard of, folks. But first, we're going to start with not really what. I mean, he kind of makes his name with like Magnum Force and what he writes.
I do love me some Dirty Harry movies.
He writes the most right wing Dirty Harry movie. They were like,
yeah,
it was like, oh, you think Dirty Harry's right wing?
Is Magnum Force the one with the rogue cops?
Ooh, it's been a long time since I've seen those.
I think that it is.
I think Magnum Force is the second one, right?
Yeah, and I think it's Dirty Harry versus 3
authoritarian white supremacist cops.
Yeah. Yes,
that's right.
And you know what's bad when Dirty Harry's like, "Hey, you guys are a little too crazy."
Yeah. It's fascist versus fascist. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. So he gets started here. He does the Evel Knievel movie or whatever, which got some acclaim, but he ends up being a co-writer on our first film, which is 1972's Robert Redford, Sidney Pollack classic, Jeremiah Johnson, which currently has a 91% on Rotten Tomatoes.
The first thing the Crow Indians learned about Jeremiah Johnson was his name. They learned what he was called. Then they learned what he was. They couldn't kill him, so they made him a legend. Robert Redford. Jeremiah Johnson. Rated PG.
Jeremiah Johnson was directed by Sidney Pollack with a screenplay by Edward Onholt and John Milius, story by Raymond W. Thorpe and Robert Bunker. It's based on actually a couple of books. It's based on Mountain Man by Vardis Fisher and Crow Killer, which is by Thorpe and Bunker. The film was released May 7th, 1972 at the Cannes Film Festival, Cannes. December 21, 1972, New York City, on a budget of $3.1 million. It made $44.7 million. A burned out soldier goes off grid and finds that the frontier is wilder and grumpier than expected.
The meme you know and love comes from this movie.
I have to apologize to my dead dad.
Okay.
Dad, if there is a place beyond and you can hear me where you are, I'm sorry for what I'm about to say about this movie.
Yeah, lay it on me, brother.
This movie is sentimental for a type of life that looks miserable, dull, and perilous.
Yep.
My dad was taken in by these images and these ideas. And I have never understood it. I didn't understand it as a young person. I didn't understand it. One of the final conversations I had with my father on his literal deathbed was about these types of movies. I just needed to understand, why do you like these movies so much?
Your dad's name? Ted Kaczynski.
My dad's name? The Unabomber. And I think it's the best that he could come to in his explanation for me. And my mom still, my mom is not a movie person. But every time I go to my mom's house, which is just about every day, she has some old Western on TV.
Interesting.
Or Western television show, Wagon Train, Gunsmoke. And my mom would put it like this: we were raised up on it. That's how my mom talks. And my dad would have said, I grew up on Davy Crockett and Wagon Train and Gunsmoke. Mm-hmm. And so I think that the way that my brain fixates on certain aesthetics that are passe it's the same for him.
Do you like Westerns?
No.
At all?
No. There are
like
Western films. I try to explain this to someone I'm talking to sexually. Joe knows what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I'm with you.
And I said to them, I'm want to like anything, but I don't like anything just because it's something.
Okay.
And she was like, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. Talk like a normal person. So
Yeah,
I said,
you dummy.
I don't like, if you tell me, well, it's, she was asking me about murder mysteries. And I'm like, I don't like murder mysteries just because they're murder mysteries. But if you show me a movie and it's a murder mystery, I could potentially like it.
Okay.
Right? Because she's real.
You
big
don't like
into,
a genre for, you don't like a genre for a genre.
That's
but if
right.
somebody shows you a movie in said genre,
yeah,
you're not going to poo-poo the movie immediately.
Bingo.
Because it's in that genre.
100%. I'm neither like for or against something because of what it is. And take that however you want, baby. the same thing goes with music, right? People are like, what kind of music do you like? And I don't know. I like songs. I don't like, are there certain genres that I tend to like more? Yeah, there's certain genres I tend to like more. There's certain genres of movies. I tend to like sad, slow 70s movies, except for this one. I tend to like, I like Paul Schrader movies, right?
Okay.
I like Sidney Lumet films, this kind of thing. But I don't like every movie Sidney Lumet or Paul Schrader ever wrote.
That's fair.
So when you say, do you like Westerns? I say no. On the whole, I really don't like Westerns. But if we sat down and we watched Unforgiven together, which we may over at Videoland at bingemovies.com/ or patreon.com/bingemovies, I would probably sit there and watch that. When I watched High Plains Drifter, which is another one of my dad's favorite movies, I thought, this fucking shit's incredible. This guy's literally might be the devil in this movie because it's right. Right, but
yep.
He's either the fucking sheriff, come back from dead, the sheriff's brother, a ghost, a demon, the devil, whatever he is. It doesn't matter.
Such a great movie.
That's a great movie. But if you were to put on The Searchers or a lot of John Ford shit, I'm going to get a headache. I get a headache. Well, I don't know why. They make me sick to my stomach when I'm watching.
What about Django?
I do like Django. Okay. That's so much not a Western, though.
It's not. I know. It was.
That's
the
not
original
even a
Django is a
Western. That is something else pretending to be a spaghetti
Kill
Western.
Bill 2 is more of a spaghetti Western than Django.
Right.
Yeah.
So what I realized is the same way that I fantasize about living in a early 80s Michael Mann movie, which ought to tell you how fucked up I am.
What did I say? What was it? Have you done a Michael Mann ranking? And I'm
open to the idea because I'm writing a movie right now, and I gave the first 2 acts to somebody, and they said this feels like Michael Mann, and it wasn't my intention. I was trying to write a Sidney Lumet film, and they said it was Michael Mann. But what I realized is I've absorbed that thief, manhunter kind of shit.
Heat to an extent.
I'm not a big fan of Heat.
It's fair. It is. I love Heat, but it's mostly for that scene.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so then I realized, I am comforted by a certain type of aesthetic and genre and thriller that they don't make anymore. That they only really made from like the late 70s to like basically the mid 90s. Because that's the era that I essentially grew up in, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so he longed to be a fucking mountain man because when he was 8 years old, all he watched was Davy Crockett and Mountain Man shit, Bonanza. So that's my best guess. I dream of Mediterranean islands.
I like it.
Where not much is expected.
Sanding down your new boat.
That's yes. Yeah. Not much is expected. Not much happens. And he dreamt of living with fucking snowshoes and wrestling bears to death, and cried at the end of Legends of the Fall, which when Tristan finally wrestles the bear.
Yeah.
But
did he cry in The Revenant when Leo got fucked by a bear?
Was he still alive when did the Revenant come out?
I don't know. That was a joke, and I realized that I didn't know when your dad passed.
Yeah,
and
I don't know that he was still alive.
That's
all right. I don't know that he ever saw it, to be honest with you.
Okay.
And then I watched this movie. So that's the first piece I'm wrestling with. The second piece I'm wrestling with is, why do I not like this movie? And what I realize is this movie plays like books that I refused to read for Book It in 1994.
Oh, that's so brilliant of a description.
This is a
Because you're
novel that
absolutely
you're
right.
forced to read in
Yeah.
5th fucking grade, and it's already 70 years old. You're like, I don't
It's
give
the
a
Call of
shit.
the Wild.
I don't give a shit about this
I
guy
don't
learning
care.
how to pitch tar to hold his fucking log cabin together. I don't give a fuck. I don't want to read 5 chapters about it.
Yeah. 5 chapters about him learning to chop a log.
That's what I'm saying. I don't give a shit.
Yeah,
I understand that it's accurate. I understand that the wild is crazy. That's why I don't fucking live there. I understand that nature's trying to kill me. That's why I live in Akron, Ohio. And that's why I don't live in fucking Yosemite. I don't live above the frost line in the fucking mountains wrestling grizz. I understand that. I'm not cut out for that life. I'm weak. I'm soft. I get it. Now, I also was like, this isn't a movie. So I did a little digging. And what I realized about the movie is that the movie took 7.5 months to edit.
The fact that there's an intermission in this movie and it's only 2 hours.
Well, okay, it's broken because the intermission is 3/4 of the way through the fucking movie.
Very weird.
You're exactly right. It's not a 3-hour movie where, an hour and a half in, we have an intermission, then we have the back half of the film. It's a 2-hour movie, and in an hour and 30 minutes almost, they put a fucking intermission.
I was sitting here watching it, and at the beginning of this movie, they do almost like an interlude. They call it an interlude, but it's an interlude takes place in something. That's why it's called an interlude.
Yeah, it's the old timey way. They're playing the score.
Yeah,
for the film,
which was I thought
the suite or whatever. Yeah,
yeah, and I was like, okay, that's fair. But exactly right. Hour and a half in, it's almost like they're going to a commercial break. Like we'll be right back.
Because after the intermission is when all the actual movie happens.
Yeah,
and so here's what Pollock. I like Pollock for the most part. Here's what he says about the film. It was a film where you used to watch dailies and everybody would fall asleep, except Bob, which he means Robert Redford. Bob and I, because all you had were these big shots of a guy walking his horse through the snow. You didn't get a strong sense of a narrative line. It's a picture made out of rhythms and moods and wonderful performances. And I like some of that stuff. And I
think it looked incredible.
Especially for its time. Yeah. Yep.
Yes.
Yeah. If you want big, giant, wide shot Panavision of
the Colorado
Rockies and vistas and all that stuff. Yes. But there are nature documentaries that do that. I don't need that.
No joke.
And I hate to say, because I was just shitting on Gen Z before we recorded. I hate to be like, hey man, had the whole movie been the last 30 minutes, I would have found this more true. His last 30 minutes is a revenge thriller.
Oh, he's the Punisher.
Yeah. Where he's like, I'm going to find the people who killed my family, effectively. They're not really his family, but they're his found family. He is comedically forced to marry a woman against her will.
There is a level. So I will say, throughout all of these movies, there is a level of comedy.
Yes,
that he does kind of slip in there. Right?
Dark
There's
shit.
A line in Red. Yeah, well, the line in Red Dawn when a character's like, okay, we're gonna do this, 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 and this, and then we're gonna flank this side, and one of the kids goes, "What's a flank?"
Yeah,
and like the look on it's like, okay, but in this one. He just hold on. My youngest is calling me. Give me 1 second.
Sure.
But yeah, this poor guy.
What poor guy you're talking about?
I'm talking about Robert Redford.
The guy who
he just wants to go in the mountains and be alone. But he keeps getting hornswoggled. Yeah. First, he runs into this gal, and she's like, "I'm not healthy enough to take care of my son. You take him."
Well, it's not even a conversation like that. It's a look.
I guess that's true.
If you don't take this kid, I'm going to probably end up killing him. She's like, just enough lucidity in her eyes to be like, correct. I'm not safe to be around. Take this kid, or I'm probably going to end up killing him.
He was like, okay.
And then he's like, then he gets a kid.
Now he's on this other adventure with this kid, and he gets literally hornswoggled into marrying this Native American woman.
Yeah.
is that the right term? I can never remember.
Native, Indigenous, First Nations.
Okay.
Yeah, because I don't remember what
I just wanna
tribe.
make sure.
She's Crow, I think, maybe in the movie.
I don't think she is Crow because the Crow kill her.
Oh, that's right. She might be from
Which is a different tribe.
She might be from a different tribe, yeah.
But now he's married to this gal, and he's just like, well, now I got two of them. Like I just wanted to be alone.
Yeah,
So there is
I understand.
You know,
I totally understand that he is this guy who finds himself as a reluctant husband and a reluctant father. But then we kind of got to watch as they don't do very much, don't really know.
Yes.
None of them like each other. And he kind of brutalizes both of them because he's just
in certain ways. Yeah, I agree.
He's just a guy, he's just this guy trying to be a man. Don't you understand? Don't you understand how hard it is to be a man? That's what all of his movies fucking boil down to.
Yeah.
And he's really not good to the woman at all.
I didn't think he was terrible. In what way?
Wait,
which woman? Which woman?
His wife.
Okay.
He's really not good to her.
In what way?
He's just very demeaning and literally physically pushes her around, and
that's true.
Eventually, he treats her like a person.
Yeah, and I did think it was interesting that she wasn't learning English.
Well, that's when it takes a turn, right? He learns her language.
Yeah, but he's learning her language,
correct.
And he does shave his. I do like that scene where she's got like the lower part of her jaw is all red. And he's like, "What the hell happened there?"
Yeah,
and he's like, "Oh, my beard," and he comes back and he's shaved his beard off.
That's when So and I totally understand the arc of the character. He is this grizzled loner who is burned out by the Mexican-American War, I want to say. And is just fucking doesn't want to be around people, right? He's very grumpy and he's got PTSD effectively, and he doesn't want to be around anybody, and so he doesn't feel like he fits into society, and so he is gonna. It's better. The world's better off without him, and he's better off without the world. But the world keeps encroaching on him, right? And these responsibilities, all the things he left the civilized world to get away from, expectations of family and all. It all finds him. And then eventually the child and the woman, their kindness towards him, it softens him. And then you see probably what he was like before the war, which is kind of a decent guy.
Yeah, I think that's
and then he does end up being respectful towards her. And he does end up seemingly really caring about her and loving her and vice versa. And he definitely cares about that kid.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, white folks show up.
Colonizers. But they don't tell. I mean, you're not wrong. It's like they're like,
we're taking this territory, and we got these troops, and we got to get from here to there. And he's like, well, go fuck yourself.
Don't they say that they're trying to get to like families like up in the mountains?
That's their claim, yeah. But they're settlers.
Okay.
Yeah. Western expansion's coming through there, and he's basically like, this is all somebody else's like land already,
right?
And then they're like, yeah, this is a land of whatever land company that sent us here to go stay. He's like, nah, there's people who already living here, And they're like, what's your plan for the people already living here? And they're like, oh, we're going to displace them. We're going to kill them. We're going to push them off to the west. They'll find somewhere else to live. Mm-hmm. This is ours now. And I think that stuff works. We could have got there an hour before we did. And, and that you think about it. I'm not saying, okay, I want this to be a 90-minute thriller or John Wick in old times, but I kind of do, because if we had started I don't know, if we had started where this guy Jeremiah Johnson falls in love, meets this woman, they reluctantly fall in love, he picks up this kid, whatever order, and he's developed this life, and he's learned her language, and all the shit we just talked about. Yeah. And then the settlers come in and they force him to go through the sacred burial ground, which causes the Crow to want revenge because they basically desecrated their ancestors.
Right.
Which he warned them about, but they pretty much threatened him, right? If he didn't help them, they're going to...
Oh, yeah. They're like, what do you think is going to happen to...
that squaw of yours? Yeah.
Correct.
Which is a horrible term. Yeah.
Horrible term.
Yeah. What do you think is going to happen to that kid and that lady you got if you don't help us?
Right.
And so he's like, okay, well, I got to. And then Yeah, it's not really supernatural, but it almost kind of takes a supernatural edge of maybe
Well,
from that.
they
maybe
go
from
to
that point forward, he is cursed, basically.
Well, they go to they start marching up the mountainside. They come across what I guess is a burial ground.
Yeah, it is. It's a burial
and
ground.
he has a vision.
Yeah.
Of we don't know what, but he automatically knows that something is wrong at home.
Yes.
He tears ass back, and when he gets there, he finds his house is destroyed. This house that he has built, and then his wife and surrogate son are like
brutally
not
murdered.
just dead, but like brutally murdered.
Yes.
Like I think the kid's face is caved in.
Yes.
It's gnarly, and he realizes then I said before that he becomes a Punisher, but that's basically what he does.
The humanity he's regained, he's lost.
Yeah.
Forever, basically.
Yeah.
He will never he was broken, and this love that they brought into his life healed him, and now he's broken beyond repair.
And now he's just killing natives.
In particular,
and it doesn't matter who they are.
Like, they're all from the Crow.
I guess that's true.
He finds the guys who did it, the immediately responsible parties, and he with no thought to his own life takes them all out.
Yeah.
Gets fucked up in the process, but what does he care? He's not living for anything anymore.
Yeah.
Burns what's left of his homestead to the fucking ground.
Right.
And then rather than that getting these people off his back, because rather than being like, okay, all sides are equal, eye for an eye, we're done. Because of the unique culture of the Crow, which may be made up for this movie, I don't know. They then are like, oh, well, if one guy could take 5 of our warriors, out of respect,
we have to take him out.
We've got to take him out, and so we're going to send one of our warriors at a time.
Yeah,
to face him.
The Bruce Lee style of
because he is so great. We want to honor him with more battles, essentially, until we can defeat him, because we want the great honor of defeating the great warrior. And it has this interesting thing, which is, with each one he defeats, which AKA is murders, kills, his legacy within this community grows.
It's growing, yeah.
So that makes him, fattens him up for another person to want to kill him, because whoever's finally going to kill him is going to be seen as the greatest warrior of all time, because he becomes...
Doesn't somebody say, oh, you're him?
Yes,
somebody
because his legend begins to spread through both the white man's world and the indigenous people's world of the great Jeremiah Johnson,
right?
Who is this impossible crow killer, right? The crow who's the most fearsome of the native tribes, the most the greatest warriors of all the indigenous peoples. They're sending their best of the best, and he's killing them all. And all that sounds awesome, and it kind of is in a way, except for it's all done by a montage.
Correct.
And seemingly he's been killing these guys for years.
Well, that's the whole thing, is he does have a run-in with a character earlier in the movie who teaches him how to hunt.
Yes, who's an absolute fucking loon.
Yeah, completely. He looks like something out of a Looney Tunes.
Yeah, he's like the Grizz hunter or whatever. Yeah.
So he leaves, and Jeremiah Johnson leaves and goes about his life, and at the end of this movie, this character shows back up. And
almost
we have to assume that it's been so long
that
he doesn't even recognize him.
No.
Until he's closer to him.
Yep.
And he would call him Pilgrim, is what the lunatic would call Jeremiah Johnson. And then, but you're right. We have to assume that he's been out here on his own, just killing natives.
Because he doesn't, the giveaway there is Jeremiah Johnson's he has no orientation for even what time it is or what year. And so he asked this other guy, because it's he's now been alone and out in the wilderness so long since the death of these people. He's completely detached from any humanity whatsoever, because he doesn't want to get close to anybody at all, because out of the bushes another warrior could appear and try to kill him.
That's true.
So yeah.
But there is a level of him being a wild animal that you can associate with,
Yeah, by the point we catch up with him again, you're right. He's basically a feral animal.
Yeah. And then there was another native that I guess basically said that he couldn't fish. He was a garbage fisherman.
Yeah.
Earlier in the movie. and they see each other again, and you think at the end of this movie, you think that Jeremiah Johnson is going to go after him, but like the guy kind of throws his hand up as kind of like, hey, I remember you, like, And
did you interpret? Where'd you go? Did I lose you?
No.
Oh, I interpreted that more as that was him telling him we're done.
Oh,
you saw it as a personal one-on-one of like, oh hey.
I saw it as like the guy being like, hey, remember like we were friends,
right? That could
like,
be. I interpret it more as like when he
I
finally
could see that
saw
as well.
him again, and he saw how wrecked he was, and or maybe that it was a guy he knew.
Yeah.
And how fucking hollowed out Jeremiah Johnson was, because by this point he's like a shell of a man.
He's gone. Yep.
And he was just like, okay, that's enough. Basically, it was like saying,
I could see that. I
like,
think that's a very
peace,
good way
basically.
to read it as well.
Yeah. It's cost us enough. It's cost you enough.
Right.
Respect.
I think that's a very good way to look at it as well. It's very interesting.
I could be
didn't
wrong.
Even think about that.
But that's how
I could be wrong.
It.
We could both be wrong.
So I didn't enjoy this movie at all. And then the last act kicked in.
Yeah.
And I was
it
like,
saved it for me.
I was like, oh shit, this should have just been the movie, right?
Yeah.
But that's not what it was. It was convincing a bunch of boys who grew up on Davy Crockett that this is, you should have been a mountain man. I give it a 6.75 out of 10. It's the third
of my
for the week. It's right in the middle.
Shit. I gave it a 3.
Oh man.
I gotta tell you, I didn't, with the exception of Conan, and
like
that is purely based on nostalgia.
Yeah.
I thought these movies were garbage.
He's not that great.
He's not that good. It is my third of the week, so there are 2 above it.
Jesus, 3 at 3.
And it's a hard 3, and it is. It's hard to watch. It's funny. I just rewatched Hunt for Red October, Patriot Games, and Clear and Present Danger.
Yeah.
And there is a level of conservatism in those movies.
He wrote a couple of those.
He did. He did.
Yeah, parts of a couple of those.
They're
right-wing movies, buddy.
But maybe it's but I enjoyed them. And I think it's who's in it.
Yes.
Right? Harrison Ford is he's never not enjoyable to watch.
Yeah.
So like you can kind of just be like, okay. And Harrison Ford is a self-professed conservative as well.
Is he?
He said that when the election was going on, he did a PSA basically saying, I usually always vote conservative, but I'm not now.
Oh, I never would have seen him as a conservative. I guess that kind of makes sense.
He's an old man, like he.
I don't know.
You look at him in 1923, and you're like, no, I get it.
I don't know. He always struck me as kind of maybe like a center left kind of guy,
middle of the road kind of guy.
Yeah.
But either way, like he's enjoyable to watch. He's a fantastic actor.
Sure, yeah.
And I think, and Robert Redford to me saves this movie. Like I think even when he doesn't have any lines, that dude is charismatic and charming as fuck. And the fact that he is not playing either Pa Kent or Perry White is a travesty. He needed to be one of those two.
I guess Paul Kent could be old depending on what version you're doing. Yeah.
But I mean, him as Perry White, would have been brilliant.
If you want a Robert Redford, Sidney Pollack team up that didn't put the cast and crew of the movie asleep when they were watching the dailies, watch 3 Days of the Condor.
3 Days of the Condor is incredible.
If you want to see him as one of the sexiest, most Robert Redford, who I have never deemed as an attractive man, 3 Days of the Condor.
Oh, I disagree.
3 Days of the Condor, you're like, this is the fucking best looking man who's ever lived.
Butch Cassidy and the Sting are
you're saying
unbelievable.
The Butch Cassidy and his kid and the Sting, not Butch Cassidy and the Sting.
Give me that movie. Blonde flat top with the face paint all day.
Okay. All right, we got to move on to John Milius's directorial debut, which has a 93% on Rotten Tomatoes. It's 1973's Dillinger.
They were called public enemies. In fact,
They were public legends. And the greatest of all was John Dillinger, the gangster's gangster. Nobody did it like Dillinger. Rated R.
Dillinger was written and directed by John Milius with triumphant returns for Warren Oates, Harry Dean Stanton, Richard Dreyfuss, Frank McRae. The film was released June 9th, 1973 in Dallas, Texas, at a budget of $1 million. A very low budget movie. You know that because I think AIP put it out, which they only did basically grindhouse movies. It only made $2 million. America's favorite bank robber turns the Great Depression into his own bullet-riddled rock tour.
I was trying to think of one when I was watching this, but all I could think about was Public Enemies.
That movie stinks, so you're in the right ballpark.
Yeah. Wait, hold on. As Triumphant Returns go, have you not had Jeffrey Lewis on the show? There's no way.
I don't think so.
Wow.
We'll get to him.
I love Jeffrey Lewis.
Well, we'll get to him. He was in my notes. We are the same distance from 1985 as this movie was from the events it's depicting.
Is that right?
40 years.
Wow.
So I'm like, wow, it's real weird that John Milius wants to write movies about gangsters from the fucking 30s and 40s.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm like, oh, I'm currently writing a political thriller set in 1984. So we are the same. Men never changed. We all have a Roman Empire, and it's all 40 years in the past. Every man in this movie, and probably every man in every John Milius movie, is a tough-talking, woman-beating piece of shit.
Here's the thing about these kind of movies. There has to be these people in real life.
Yeah,
are garbage people.
That's right. Yeah, and by the way, I'm not opposed to tough talking. I'm not even theoretically opposed to a guy beating up a woman on screen or a woman beating a man up on screen.
Mm-hmm.
But when it is effectively one note, and there's nothing else to, I don't want to say there's nothing else to say about it. I think what this movie is trying to do is it's constantly juggling the persona of these bank robbers, Babyface, Nelson, Dillinger, who were the Luigi Mangionis of their time.
You're not wrong.
They were folk heroes because people were going through the Depression and the banks were taking everybody's money and not letting them have their money and foreclosing on people's homes, and people didn't have food to eat. People were selling their own kids. My grandfather was sold.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. By his mother, because they were living through the Dust Bowl and the Depression out in Oklahoma.
Mm-hmm.
And they had a gaggle of kids. And my great grandfather was like a traveling veterinarian, who we later found out did not have a veterinary license or degree. Was just a really smart guy. So apparently he was this beloved veterinarian who lied about having the credentials. He just read books and was kind of smart.
I got it. It's just trial and error. He's just cutting poor animals open. He's like, oh shit.
People could not afford to pay him.
Yeah.
But they still needed their animals taken care of. So even though he was a fraud, he still kept taking care of people's animals the best that he could at his own detriment. And so when he was he eventually had to start traveling to try to make money doing veterinary care further and further away. And so he'd be gone for weeks and months at a time and sending money home. And during a very particularly lean period, in her desperation, she sold off a bunch of her youngest children, like their 3 youngest. The youngest, I think, was my grandfather, who turned out to be a real son of a bitch. And it's my dad's dad. This is all about man's problems, Joe. This is all about male generational trauma.
Yeah, it is.
And my grandfather came home and 3 of his kids were missing. So he had to track down, and by this point, they're in other states.
Right.
And so my grandfather had to go across the Southwest to find his kids and bring them home, which is a movie,
That's
by
wild.
the way. That's a fucking movie.
It
And all
absolutely
this
a
is
movie.
true and documented, and we have records of all of it. And so I understand that in that context, if somebody says, fuck this, fuck these CEOs effectively, right? These bank managers who are holding the country, fuck them. And by the way, fuck the FBI because that they represent the government. This is all the government's problem.
Part of it. They're part of it.
They're part of the system that's fucking us all over. We're starving to death, and they're rich and they're holding on to our money. So these guys who are, greedy sociopaths become folk heroes. I totally understand that. And I understand that he's like trying to get you to see that the same John Dillinger who would effectively kidnap a girl.
Yeah.
And then abuse her until she seemingly
breaks
and then is devoted to him in a
sort of like a Stockholm kind of thing.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Like to the point of sort of this weird perverted love, but it's not really love because we know it's abuse, is the same guy who's like super charismatic and charming to the townsfolk he doesn't randomly murder.
Well, I mean,
I get it.
Ted Bundy.
I think that's what
is.
I think that's what he's trying to show us, right? Like you said, is both sides of the sociopath or psychopath is they're superficially charming and also deranged,
right?
And like a Ted Bundy, and we have a fascination with these guys. Sometimes we elect them president. We have a fascination with these superficially charming sociopaths who can make funny faces and make us laugh, even while they're doing horrendous, terrible things.
Yep.
Especially if we see them as being a counter to the system which we feel has screwed us.
Yeah, and I think
even though
it is hard,
it's their money he's stealing. By the way, then the towns are like, yeah, fuck him.
It's almost like they're completely snow. Yeah,
that's right. It's like, wait a minute, yeah, he's fucking the system, but he's taking your money.
He's taking your money.
Yeah.
I think it is really hard, especially in today's world, to tell a real story. I just rewatched about a month ago the Johnny Depp pick about the guy in Boston.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Oh shit! Whatever that movie was.
He's played Whitey Bulger.
You're playing Whitey Bulger.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because the way that Whitey Bulger is this famous mob boss from Boston. He's played by Jack Nicholson. Jack Nicholson's character in The Departed is very much based on him. But the way Johnny Depp plays him, there's never a moment where you're kind of like, yeah, I'm on that guy's side. Like, is he charismatic to other people? Sure. But there's never a time where you're rooting for Whitey Bulger.
Yeah. No.
I feel like in movies like this, even Public Enemies, which isn't a great movie, but they do want you to root, also Johnny Depp, as a matter of fact, want you to root for Dillinger. And it's like, this is the same way. In this one, with the exception of Jeffrey Lewis, everybody's a piece of shit.
That's right.
And it's hard. Even the FBI guy is not a good guy.
No.
So like it's hard to watch.
No,
this.
he's another sociopath. That's the point.
Yeah, absolutely,
he's as much of a vainglorious glory hog as Dillinger is. They both want to be on the front page of the paper.
Yes,
they're basically competing for the spotlight. Yeah,
and I think we talked about this on the when we talked about the Untouchables. Is you need someone that you can root for. And in a movie like Scarface or The Godfather, yeah, you're rooting for the bad guy, but they're doing bad things to other bad guys.
I think a better comparison, I think you're on the right track, but maybe a closer comparison is Goodfellas.
Absolutely.
You're watching a sociopath, and a sociopath is narrating the movie, and you, just like a lot of the people he meets, you succumb up to a point to his charm.
Wolf of Wall Street, I think, is another one.
That's another one. That one is so effective that the idiot bros who watch it don't realize he's the bad guy, right? They see him as like, that's the guy they're supposed to want to be.
The hero.
When the movie's the opposite, right? And so that I had that in my notes. I think we're supposed to be, as the audience, like Billy, who is the woman he's kidnapped.
Yeah.
Who is terrified and seduced at the same time by Dillinger. I think the problem is John Milius, who wrote some good shit in 1973, wasn't at the level to write this in a way. And the entire time I was just sitting there thinking, what if this movie had been made by Scorsese?
Oh, it would have been,
because I think he gets us to the same point, same points of getting us to uncomfortably relate to, maybe even take pleasure in Dillinger's violence, and then also feel guilty about it. And at some point rug pull us and we go, oh shit, I'm a bad person because I like this.
Yeah.
Right. Which is the point. Right. But this,
at no point does this movie make you feel that way.
It's just repetitive noise and violence and vileness. And that's all that it really is.
I agree.
And the standout of the movie to me, now there's two things about it that I think are, maybe three, but they're kind of remarkable. Somebody decided to make Warren fucking Oates
a
lead of a major motion picture.
It's a bold move.
And he does a good enough job, right? But I just thought, this is going to be the only movie ever made where Warren Oates is the lead.
When he comes up on screen, and I was like, oh shit, that guy's playing. Okay. Like, that's where we are. All right.
This guy 10 years later would be the fucking Goof in Stripes.
Yeah.
You know, like that, like that's maybe it's just that that's what I'm used to him being, because everything I've ever seen Warren Oates in, he's pretty much, he's pretty much like the asshole authority figure.
Yeah.
Or of some kind or another. He's never like the charming lead. I was like, wait a minute. We've got Harry Dean Stanton, Warren Oates. I'm surprised
Who looks younger than I think I've ever seen him.
Yeah, but I'm surprised Dick Miller is in this fucking thing. Richard Dreyfuss shows up.
That was a weird one.
And there's a moment. He's playing Pretty Boy Floyd. Yeah. Or is he? No, he's playing Babyface Nelson, right?
Babyface Nelson.
So it's not Dreyfuss, but there's a moment. Whoever's playing Pretty Boy Floyd, there's a moment. You know, he's eating breakfast with that family, you know?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And then he's like, well, okay, that's a good scene, actually.
That scene, yeah,
that's the best scene in the movie.
The lead up is the guys get busted, and it is Pretty Boy Floyd, Babyface Nelson, and John Dillinger. They're the guys that are running together.
Yeah.
They get busted and they kind of split. Everybody splits.
Yes.
And I think you're right. I think it is Pretty Boy Floyd ends up at like this
Mon Pa Kent's house.
Yeah, Mon Pa Kent's house from Superman in 78.
Yeah, and they're like trying to reach him to get him to turn his life around.
Yeah, and I do like where the old man's like, "Come on in here, son."
Yeah.
And he's sitting down with them and they're having dinner, and she's like, "Do you want to pray?" And he was like, "Nah, what's the point? Like, I'm going to the same place anyway." Like, it's nothing I can do about
she's
it.
like, she offers him to give him a Bible or something like that.
Yeah, and he was like, "For what?"
And then his response, but it's a little bit more. He says something to her to the effect of, "Well, ma'am, I figure whether I read it or not, I'm still going to end up in the same place for what I've done."
I think that's right, and I
that's
thought
such
in that
a
moment,
great fucking line, and that guy's delivery is so good. That's such a good little scene. And then the cops show up and he goes, "Well, folks, like basically like, it's been a pleasure having dinner with you. Thank you. You've been very kind to me. Thank you for
like,
taking me in."
exit stage left.
And he opens up the window behind him and crawls out. And there's a moment though. Okay, here's what I want to get to, where he's like looking up and he's kind of thinking to himself, or maybe he's hearing the cops coming. And whoever that guy is looks just like fucking Brad Pitt for about 2.5 seconds. And the amount of charisma for about 2.5 seconds that guy has, and then he's just brutally shot in the back and gunned down.
Well, you know, we were talking about how
that's the most humanity that's in this entire movie.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
Yes.
Is if it's that guy, as throughout the movie, giving like those kind of moments with people.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe you're telling a story here where you can kind of be like, all right, John Dillinger, not that bad of a guy.
Right.
But it's this side character that you see for, we'll say 5 minutes.
Maybe. Yeah. Yeah.
And he is able to give this performance in about 5 minutes that is better than everybody else in the movie. He outshines everybody in that moment.
Yeah, he does. That's the best moment in the movie. I would say the best performance goes to your guy, Jeffrey Lewis.
Okay, that's fair. And I love Jeffrey Lewis.
You may be the only person who's ever said that. Not because he's bad, but I don't think very many people know who Jeffrey Lewis is. I know him because he was in an episode of Law & Order Criminal Intent starring Vincent D'Onofrio.
Okay.
In which he
was Sherlock Holmes.
He was married to a woman who, whatever the plot was, the reveal at the end was she had a calcified fetus from a miscarriage, like a
I know exactly
failed
which
abortion or something from 40 years previous that had turned to stone in her stomach or some shit. I don't know. It was a weird fucking episode. Even by criminal intent
that's
standards.
That's my favorite Law & Order.
That's my favorite Law & Order.
I love that Law & Order.
And
if anybody tells you that's not Sherlock Holmes, I'll kick
only the D'Onofrio episodes though.
Oh, see, I do like the Goldblum episodes.
It's because Vincent D'Onofrio famously had a mental breakdown.
He did.
Doing that show.
Yeah.
And it was like gone for a while.
Did they bring in, it was Chris Noth? They brought in Chris Noth for a minute?
and Jeff Goldblum, and they would alternate episodes. 1 week it'd be Noth, 1 week it'd be Goldblum. Because they could, and then eventually D'Onofrio came back, but it wasn't the same, and then Catherine Araby left. And, it's like the first 3 or 4 seasons of that show.
Oh, I forgot that she does leave.
When they're when they were in the fucking pocket, man.
That was so good.
That was so good. But yeah, I think this is the best performance of that guy's career.
He's another one that kind of, he's great. I think he's great in Salem's Lot. He's a fun character. I think he's fun in The Devil's Rejects.
Oh shit, he is in that, isn't he?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I block out those Rob Zombie movies.
Devil's Rejects is a really good movie.
Yeah.
Halloween 1.
I wouldn't say that, but
I would. Devil's Rejects is a pretty.
Speaking of Lindsay Washburn, doesn't she kind of look like Rob Zombie's wife?
100. I have never said that out loud.
Oh, I've said
every time I see her though. I think it every single time.
I've said to her face.
Okay, good. Yes, she absolutely looks like.
Well, she takes offense. I think somebody takes offense to it because she can't stand that woman.
Oh, that's fair.
Well, she's a terrible actress, but she looks just like her.
She does. But I think Devil's Rejects is his best movie. Now, bar's real low.
Well, maybe he can make a remake of Dillinger.
I would see that movie in a heartbeat. That would be insane.
I wouldn't see any movie that he would make in a heartbeat. This is my second worst of the week. I give it a 5 out of 10. It's not good.
This is my worst of the week. I gave it a 1.75.
Ooh, time to move on to a movie that not a lot of people liked, desperately flopped. There's more history behind it. We'll get into it. It is 1978's Big Wednesday, which was supposed to be Milius's big movie.
Jan Michael Vincent is Matt Johnson, a reluctant hero to a generation that would forget him. Billy Cat is Jack. He was the first to accept responsibility. Gary Busey is Leroy, the masochist, a careful student of the art of being reckless. Big Wednesday, the story of a generation, of every generation. Growing up, leaving home, changing. Some marry, some die, some search for a new spot.
It was directed and written by Milius. Co-credited screenwriter is Dennis Auberg. It is a triumphant return of, I don't think any of these people, maybe Gary Busey, probably Gary Busey. It was released May 26, 1978, and a budget of $11 million. It made $4.5 million.
Oof. 3
surfers waxed their boards and poetic about the good old days when guys were dudes, broads were chicks, and being a piece of shit was cool.
That's better than anything I was going to come up with, because that's exactly what this movie is.
Okay, if you ever, I'm coming off like such a left-wing wanker on this episode, but I want to make a point here. If you ever want a visual depiction for 2 hours of what the baby boomers dream of.
Oh,
To this day, it's effectively to be young, hot in California and be able to do whatever the fuck you want with no consequences. And your behavior is always somebody else's problem. And because that's the attitude they carry off into the world to this day, right? If you got a problem with me, that's your fault, right?
Yeah.
Famously, Lucas, Spielberg, and Milius are all directing their first big movies kind of at the same time.
In 78.
It's right around this time.
Yeah.
Spielberg has his follow-up to Jaws. You have to remember, Jaws was not supposed to be a big movie. It was a B movie that became a big movie.
Rightfully so.
Star Wars was not supposed to be a big movie, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Spielberg is working on his follow-up to Jaws, which is going to be Close Encounters.
Mm-hmm.
Lucas has Star Wars around this time.
Star Wars is 77.
That's right.
Yeah. Superman is 78. Yeah. Okay.
We're talking about in this whole kind of timeline.
I'm with you.
Right. Milius is the second out of the three of their respective projects with Big Wednesday. Go back in time a little bit before Jaws, I believe, or at least before it was released, maybe when they were working on it. Lucas, Spielberg, and Milius are hanging out, and they decided they're going to give each other points on their movies. Spielberg can't do it on Jaws, so he's going to give him points on his next movie, which becomes Close Encounters.
Okay.
Lucas gives Milius points on Star Wars.
Fuck off.
It's only 1 or 2 points, but
That's
and
a lot of
Milius
points for that movie.
gives 1 or 2 points on Big Wednesday. And 2 of those 3 movies are some of the biggest movies of those years or any year.
Are 2 of the biggest movies of all time.
And so
influential movies of all time.
The argument or the joke that goes around Hollywood is that John Milius made more money off of the 1 point he got on Star Wars than in all of the rest of the movies he made combined.
That's probably
and
true.
The other joke is that Lucas and Spielberg probably lost money on Big Wednesday. They didn't get anything. Is that not the greatest deal in history where you fall ass backwards into Close Encounters and Star Wars?
Yeah.
He probably bought his mansion just off the Star Wars money.
The Star Wars money.
Yeah.
Easily.
Fucking insane.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's really funny.
I had never seen this one before. I had heard about it.
Me either.
Because this
I'd never even heard about it.
This one has gotten a kind of reappraisal in the last, I'd say 10 years, maybe 20.
I could see that.
And I'm because it flopped and it was kind of critically panned.
Okay.
So I'm watching it and I'm going, okay. Because now this is my 3rd in a row with this fucking guy. So I'm like, okay, I know what this is going to be. And then I get to a scene where it's Barbara Hale and William Catt. And I write, wow, these two have some of the most natural. It's the scene where they're having a big house party and he's about to have an orgy with the 3 girls.
Correct.
He's about to have a gangbang, reverse gangbang. And he opens the door and his mom is sitting there reading a book.
This is what when I talk about strange flashes of humor.
Yes.
This is one of those moments where he's about to fuck these 3 girls.
3 hot chicks.
Opens the door.
There's some hot people.
There are some drop. Okay, but yes, he opens the door and there's his mom, and his mom's just like, "You rapscallion, you crazy kid."
Well, she doesn't even really comment about who he's gonna fuck. She's just like,
no, but she's just kind of like,
just make sure Suicide keeps his feet off of my end table, or whatever his name, Maniac, or whatever his name was. Yeah,
Masochist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's like, Mom, I swear to God, I only invited about 3 or 4 people. And then, whoever, he invited all these people. I didn't know who these people are. Mom. And he's like making all these excuses. And she's not even really having, she's reading her book and she's just like, just don't let him break my china and keep the feet off the whatever, kind of a thing.
Right.
And I'm like, wow, their chemistry together is so believable as mother and son. It's fucking crazy. Well, that's his mom in real life. That's William Catt's real mom. They're real.
That makes total sense.
They're real mother and son. Now, one of the critics who panned this movie said the acting is so bad in this movie, none of it's believable. Even to the point where you not at one point do you believe that William Catt and Barbara Hale are actually son and mother, which is
I disagree.
Which is astounding because she's his real life mom. Like that was one of the takedowns for the movie, and I totally disagree. I thought this is maybe this might be the most believable relationship. This whole fucking thing. Also, speaking of people who I have never seen in a lead movie that is actually a movie.
Jan Michael Vincent?
Jan Michael Vincent is fucking ripped.
Okay.
Shredded.
Who's the lead? Who's the lead in Streets of Fire?
Michael Paré.
Okay.
Not
I
him.
was getting them confused.
Nah, yeah.
But okay. When these guys are William Catt also
not a great actor,
but in whatever. It's funny because Gary Busey is the one where they're like, "Hey, can you get into shape for this?" And he was like, "Nah."
Yeah, not
when
really.
He's standing next to William Catt, who looks like he got himself in pretty good shape.
Yes.
And Jan Michael Vincent, who looks like he is chiseled out of stone.
He looks like a pro wrestler. Like a modern day pro wrestler. Yeah.
Yeah. He's not inflated.
The vascularity. God damn.
Yeah. Look at you, pal.
Striations.
The striations.
Yeah.
But I will say, they did a very good job of showing these three actors, who are the three that we follow throughout the movie, get older as the movie goes on.
Yeah.
I thought they did a pretty fantastic job of making them look older.
It's like it's like a
Jan Michael Vincent is the one that
it's like
comes to
2
mind.
decades of their life, basically, kind of 15
Yeah, you
years,
see
maybe.
him. You see him 3 different times.
Yeah,
and even by the end, like Jan Michael Vincent, they've dyed the sides of his hair. He's got glasses, and he does look a little more
grown up,
weathered.
Yeah, middle aged.
Yeah. And I was like, okay. And I did kind of enjoy this movie because I do like coming of age stories.
Yeah.
Where, I think of like Dazed and Confused, I think is one of the greatest, my favorite movies of all time. Like I love Dazed and Confused. Now, granted, that's only centered in one night.
Yeah.
But this, the beginning of this movie where it is centered basically in a night.
Yeah.
And I was like, this was my life. Like this is, we weren't
100%,
surfing, but like
yes,
house parties, fighting,
a certain time,
trying to hook up with the hot girl,
a certain time in
was,
everybody's life, especially dudes' lives. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Drinking with your buddies.
Yep.
No
the responsibilities. That, if you do, you're not taking care of them.
No.
Yeah.
Also,
reckless with your body and other people's.
Yeah, the original Captain America is in this movie.
That's true.
Well, I guess the original TV version.
We get a wild Robert Englund appearance, who was
yes,
yeah,
which was great.
You get
always creeps me out.
A pre-brain damaged Gary Busey, who is acting brain damaged, which is kind of hilarious. I don't know that guy was ever not crazy, but he's playing a crazy guy in the movie.
He's never. The only time I think he's not playing a crazy guy is Silver Bullet.
No, well, yes, but there's another movie, and it's the craziest fucking thing in the world, and I have to bring it up because Lindsay's not here.
Do it.
There's a movie called Hider in the House.
Hide or in the house, or
Hider
in the house.
Hider. Hider, as if it's not really a word. I think he's the hider.
It's not a word. Okay.
He's like a homeless, escaped mental patient who finds this beautiful house that he wants to live in, but it's being sold and a new family is moving in. And so he builds a fabricated wall in the attic. So it looks like their attic is shorter than it is. And then he hides in there and lives in there. Now that sounds,
That's
and
terrifying.
then he peeps on them. And then when they're not home, he comes down and like lives in the house when they're at work and school. And then when they come home, he goes back up and goes into his little house. So it was marketed as like a horror movie, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you think, okay, Gary Busey hiding in a fake wall, living in the walls of your house. That's pretty fucking weird. Scary.
So
movie.
fucking weird.
Except for like 2/3 of the movie plays it as like kind of like a sentimental story about like what it is to have mental illness in America and to be forgotten and to have like no like have to experience homelessness because of your disability. And you're like, wait a minute. It's like it makes it even crazier because you're sympathetic to him and you're like this is the craziest Gary Busey premise on paper, right?
Yeah,
Gary Busey is hiding in the walls of your house, peeping on your young daughter. But then you turn the movie on thinking, okay, this guy's a nutbag. This is post motorcycle accident, so his brains are scrambled eggs. He's going to be crazy in this fucking movie. And instead, it's the most normal performance he gave since the Buddy Holly story. You're like, what the fuck? It makes it even weirder. You're like, what the fuck? They got a normal performance out of Gary Busey in his craziest movie. Okay. So
very weird.
I would agree with you. Okay. Because I was like, oh my God, this is the third movie in a row that is drenched with nostalgia for a bygone era, for guys being dudes.
It was the first time I felt that from these movies.
Yes.
Where I was like, oh man, I did have
again, motherfucker. And it's the same idea, right? That rugged individualism is great, but he puts a new twist on it.
Mm-hmm.
And the twist is that rugged individualism is great until you are faced with a system larger than yourself, because systems crush the individuals. Individuals can never beat a system. The system's always going to win. And that's very true, but I almost feel Milius is wrestling with that idea to a point where it feels like he gets close to it.
I think he gets very close to it. I think
it feels like this is a movie written by a baby boomer libertarian.
Oh,
because that's where he would classify himself. At some point, he's like, "I'm so libertarian, I'm an anarchist," which just means I'm a fascist, which is actually true. But he's like, "I believe in so little government, I'm basically a fascist." And it's like, yeah, well, you're right, because it is.
You're right.
It does circle back around. But he is like. He kind of falls ass backwards into the reality of the rugged individualism of Bear.
Oh.
And who is the guy that these guys look up to.
Yeah.
The rugged individualism that takes them to Mexico, Tijuana. I don't remember what city in Mexico they are. Guadalajara, wherever they are over the border. They go full cavalier while they're down there. They're fucking off, literally fucking in that Woody as they're going down there, right?
Picking fights.
Matt and Peggy are about to have a kid. Those are the two who are fucking.
So one of my favorite parts of this movie is it's this scene where they're in Mexico.
Peggy,
they're sitting on the hood of this car and they're all bullshitting.
Yes.
And Peggy goes, "I'm pregnant." And the other girl's like, "What? You're kidding." And she was like, no, I'm not. And Matt doesn't skip a beat. He just
keeps sipping his beer.
She's like smoking a cigarette.
Yep.
She is smoking a cigarette, taking swigs of beer.
Yeah,
and she's just, and I think it's Sally, I think is the other character, is like, "Are you going to keep it?" And she was like, "Well, yeah. Why wouldn't I?" And again, I was like, oh, there it is. Like, it's showing a little bit.
Oh yeah.
And a little bit.
Yeah. 100%.
But she the fact that Matt is just kind of like, oh, and it didn't even click to me that Matt was the father.
No, because he's so nonchalant about it.
He's so nonchalant about it.
Yeah.
And then later, we find out that it is his.
Yeah.
Or at least she's calling him dad.
And it doesn't stop them from going to a fucking donkey show.
Nope.
And then that's where he gets into the fist fight, which turns into a knife fight, and somebody dies.
Yeah.
And
not one of our main characters, but
no, like somebody who was just in the bar gets killed because of a fight Matt Matt fucking started.
Yeah.
And they never really come to terms with the fact that they
was that when the guy was making fun of Peggy?
It wasn't making fun of her, he was hitting on her. And
then she turned him down, and then
Peggy is also a female surfer, which is a plot line they pick up and just sort of drop when she gets pregnant.
Yeah.
She's a female. She's one of the few female surfers like in this area of California where they're at, and she's really, really good. She's as good, if not better, than Matt, right? And if people haven't seen this movie, because a lot of people haven't, is the three guys who are William Catt and Jan Michael Vincent and Gary Busey are kind of like
the Tony Hawk of
surfing? Basically, they're kind of these white boy innovators of surfing in California. They didn't invent it. They didn't create it. They definitely stole it from the Polynesian people, which they kind of reference.
They do a little bit.
But they take it from the big islands and from the islands, and they adapt it for California, and they develop kind of almost like a freestyle way of surfing, right? They're doing tricks and shit on the board.
They're walking up and down the board. They've got three guys on the board. They've got, all these different like tricks.
We call it hot dogging, right? And they're hitting big waves, right? And they're very reckless. They're like daredevils. Like you said, like Tony Hawk, right? They're doing tricks and stunts and stuff that people didn't think was possible. And she's one of them. And she's very, very, very good. And her name is Peggy. Her last name starts with a G. And so they call her PG for short.
Mm-hmm.
Because they all have nicknames and shit. Masochist and PG and this one and that one and whatever. And he makes the comment, he's like hitting on her. And he's like, "Oh man, like I didn't realize this was your old lady or whatever, right? I just saw a pretty girl at a bar, and like, she's a surfing hot dogging legend, man." And then after basically she rejects him, and then she's with Matt. That's when he's like, "PG doesn't that stand for point grinder?" Because like there's the point.
Oh, that's what it was.
There's point for for surfing, but there's also the idea is that she's like
fucking her way to the top.
Yeah, right. Basically, she's a whore, right? He's slut shaming her. And
Matt turns around and fucking blasts.
There's a fist fight that gets like a bunch of Mexicans killed. And so in response,
I'm not laughing at that, but it is like
that's what the movie never reckons with the fact of like they go into somebody else's country.
Yep.
Are throwing beer cans all around people's fucking neighborhood.
Yep.
Causing a ruckus and disturbance. Go into a bar that is definitely meant to cater to people coming over the border for illicit stuff. It's a border town. But still, start a fight that gets local people killed who had nothing to do with the fight.
Nope.
Just people that say, and they never reconcile with it at all.
Never.
And the girls are all shaken up because things get real bad and everybody's freaking out. Gary Busey comes back from a one-night stand. They have the young Mexican girl who maybe not even of age, or he claims that he married. It's fucking, and the movie is full of scenes like that where they'll just have a pure sex brawl.
If this scene was in something like Stripes, it would have been played. The buddy that's running back from I just married this girl.
Yes, it's it's kind of a boner comedy stuff.
It's a screwball comedy to a
but
degree,
it's very serious. But it's people die.
Right.
So you're like, what do you? In the big picture, the movie does by the end reconcile with these characters.
Yeah,
that their immature, tough guy attitude has done irreparable damage to themselves, to the people they love, and to the world.
Right.
But there's never a moment in an individual scene where they get innocent bystanders killed.
No.
Up to and including Matt walking out drunk and causing somebody to fucking flip their trailer.
Right. Oh. Is that after William Catt comes back, or is that when
that's before he leaves? But William Catt becomes a lifeguard, and
that's right.
They feel like he's sold out. He's sold out bad because the point that they surf from is, again, this is that libertarian anti-government shit.
Mm-hmm.
There's no lifeguard shack. It's like an unofficial point, right? But because of that area is not being maintained, so it's kind of collapsing itself.
Right.
They're like, hey, so many surfer hooligans have taken over this one spot. It's fallen into disrepair. We now need to have a lifeguard there to basically help clean up the beach and get all these surf rats out of here, right? And so it ends up becoming
William
him.
Catt, not William Atherton.
Yeah, William Catt ends up doing it because he's starting to get to the point where he's like, fuck this. I got to grow up.
Well, does he take that gig before he gets drafted?
It's basically the same time because when we see him in the uniform, he's also like reading his draft letter.
Right.
Yeah. So it's like they're basically the same time. And so then so because of that, he sold out. And so Matt and Gary Busey seems to be like kind of still cool with
disappears.
him. But yeah, he disappears. But he seems to be like kind of cool with him because when he sees him, he's like, "Hey, Matt, what's up?" But like a lot of the old Bear and the old Surf gangs see him as the man now. You're the man because you're trying to get the government to interfere with our libertarian surfer lifestyle. William,
William, that's just like I'm just doing. Like I'm just living life.
I'm just being I'm just a fucking lifeguard.
Yeah, like I just got drafted, you know.
Again, the movie like almost gets close because by this point Matt is gone from like the life of the party who's like fucking all these chicks
drunk.
To a Jan Michael Vincent style down alcoholic, and he is a kid because the kid has been born. So Peggy's a mom who doesn't know where he is.
Well, yeah, that's right.
He's drunk. He's got a fucking toddler.
Yeah, he's got. There's I think where Peggy goes to William Catt, and
yes, like, have you seen Matt?
Have you seen Matt? And he was like, "Yeah, like he was just here." And
I threw him off the beach for being drunk. Yeah,
right. And she was like, "All right," and you know, and she also has a character arc, kind of where she just kind of accepts Matt. Like,
well, she does, but she kind of goes square.
She does go square.
She goes and gets a
and
real
by square,
job.
we mean being adult.
Yeah. She's like, she gets a real job at like seeming like almost like an early Silicon Valley kind of a company.
Yeah.
And she's like, okay, like I got a job. Like
we can afford this house. We can do this. We can.
And he's like still struggling to like live a normal life. You know, he can't handle that. It's not the 1950s, 60s. It's later in the 60s. He can't handle it. He can't handle that. He's got to grow up.
They're at a vegan restaurant. He gets all jerked
Pissy.
Off at the guy for, you know.
The thought that I had though is like, okay, and this kind of goes all those boner comedies too. Again, I'm going to be the wanker. I'm going to be a little bit of a downer here, Joe. If you've noticed a trend,
It's okay.
So. Movies are all about perspective, right? They're all about POV. And whose perspective?
Sure.
Whose perspective is the movie coming from? Because that's the perspective that we share. And like we were talking about that with Dillinger of like, there's not really with Henry Hill, we're given his POV.
Oh, sure.
And so we kind of, even though he's a piece of shit, we're kind of charmed by him and maybe even kind of sympathize with him to a point. We're taken in by him just as he's taken in by the larger world of the mob.
Right.
Same thing goes with like Wolf of Wall Street, right? POV. POV is very powerful. Dillinger doesn't really have a POV because just a bunch of random ass characters and yada yada. Okay.
The yada yada over the best part.
From the POV of this movie, this gang. And, you know, these three guys, their girls, and all the associated pizza places and other people who are hanging out with them. There are guys, right? They may be assholes, but there are assholes. There are surfer hooligans. And
yeah.
We're supposed to like them or whatever. Well, anytime they run into, like that guy at the bar, another group of surfer hooligans, we're immediately supposed to be like, those fucking assholes. But if the movie had just switched point of views and been about them, because every other group of assholes that they run into is just doing the exact same thing that our wild boys are doing, right?
You're not wrong.
And it was like when you know someone, you can just dismiss it as they're just being wild boys. But when you don't know them, they're jerks, they're threatening, they're loudmouth, they're dangerous, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm like, if this movie was just from the perspective of like the random citizens of this surf town or the lady who owns the diner that they fucking trashed like 3 different times.
Oh man. And
these guys are the villains. They're not just boys will be boys. They're fucking.
They're Biff's crew.
They're yes. They're Biff's crew. That's a great way to put it.
Yep.
It's funny to them, but nobody else is fucking laughing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I do think that William Katt is the good guy of the group. Right. He's
the movie
not straight-laced, but
the movie wants you to be like, look at this guy. What a sellout.
Yeah. Look at this guy who is falling in love with the girl.
Yep.
Who's getting the job,
Yep.
who is taking the responsibility,
Yep.
who is accepting the draft.
But you know what's so fucking bizarre about this movie? Is it's effectively William Katt's movie. He's the narrator, the older version of him.
Yeah, absolutely.
His performance, other than with his mom, is actually kind of hit or miss. He's kind of bad in some of this.
Mm-hmm.
Also, the little military wig they have on him for the crew cut.
That was
horrible.
tough. When he
It's tough
at the
stuff.
end, I was like, "What are you doing, bud?"
Right. He it's weird, man. It's weird. But when he comes back from Vietnam as like a super secret colonel with the mustache where he looks like a fucking Nazi, when he comes back, honestly, that reminded me of like Starship Troopers when we don't see Doogie Howser for 45 minutes of the movie.
And then all of a sudden he's in like Gestapo gear.
He's an SS officer, and he's like colonel, whatever. It's like, what the fuck? How did William Katt become a colonel in Vietnam?
It is funny that
2
just
years
in Starship Troopers, the way they promote people in that movie, where they're just like, you're on the battlefield and you're like, nah, that guy died. Johnny Rico, you're next.
Johnny Rico, 5-star general, you're out.
You're up, bud.
But then from the point that William Katt comes back and realizes that Sally basically
that was kind of heartbreaking.
It was. Dear John'd him without ever mailing the letter.
Yeah.
Then the movie stops being about him, and now it's about Gianmichael Vincent. For the last 40 minutes. And you're like, wait a minute. We just switched main characters for the last 40 minutes of your movie. What the fuck?
Yeah. And there is a scene.
Weird.
It actually teared me up a little bit because I did have a buddy go to basic pre 9/11.
Oh my God.
Was it pre 9/11? Maybe it wasn't. No, I was out of high school. So
it was on 9/11.
Yeah, he was going. Hey, you know that training you were going to get? Not today. You're going, buddy.
Hey, you know that new war you've been looking for? It's your cousin, Joe.
Listen to this.
Yeah, listen to this. As the tower's falling.
Yeah, right. Ta-da!
Yeah.
That scene where they have another big party at William Katt's house.
Yeah.
And it's his last party.
That's when Freddy Krueger shows up.
It is, yeah. I think that scene, it did make me tear up because I remember that exact same thing happening. And with these guys, you don't know if you're going to see your buddy again.
Oh, no.
That war in Vietnam was, we covered it on Casualties of War.
Yeah.
It was a mess. It was
Brutal.
a mess, and people were dying left and right. And you did not know when your friend was leaving. Well, you knew when your friend was leaving, but you didn't know if he was coming home.
Yeah.
So when you see Peggy and Reb Brown and Freddy Krueger, and they're all kind of saying these very heartfelt goodbyes because this could be the last time they ever see him again. I was like, okay, I will give him credit. Like, he nailed the feeling and the emotion of saying goodbye to your friend for what could be the last time.
I agree.
And the way Gianmichael Vincent, sometimes in movies, it's almost like men don't know how to hug other men.
Yeah.
Where it's like,
that's sometimes in life too,
that's,
but that's not just
that's
movies.
Also true. That's also true.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to hug you too tight because that might be a little gay. Ooh, can't have
not
that.
gay, bro. Not gay.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
But like the way Gianmichael Vincent hugs William Katt at the end, it was genuine and it felt very real. So he does. So, Milius, as much as I don't think he's a very good filmmaker, was able to capture that moment right then and there where I was like, okay, like I feel this. Like, I feel this moment. But yeah, then they all come back and they ride a big wave.
Well, that's effectively what it's about. Is their whole youth was spent waiting for the big wave, right? The big one.
Right.
But obviously you can never predict when that's going to be. And it had been decades, and Bear was a young man the last time it happened. And he's this guy that now lives at this abandoned wharf, and he's kind of their mentor. And it is kind of funny because we watch Bear then move into basically like consumerism where
Sure. Big. Well, yeah, because they're selling the he calls it a pier, but like they're commercializing it. Like they're gonna
his boards that he like would miss. He's like this hippie
in this shack.
Like, yeah, he's like in a shack making like specific boards by hand, and he only makes one at a time, and only for special people at special times for special waves. And then the next time we see him, he's sitting in a reclining chair in a suit, smoking a cigar, reading a magazine, ordering people around. He's not even building his own boards anymore. He's got some of the surf kids doing it, you know?
Yeah, right.
And he's bitching and complaining and whatever. And then when they come back from the war, he's lost his surfboard fortune because he's also an alcoholic. Mm-hmm. And I'm supposed to feel sorry for him because he lost his surfboard fortune from his alcoholism. And that's when I said, fuck off, boomer. But... Like, come on, think about how much this country has changed, where the big tragedy of your life is, oh, I did what I loved and I made too much money. Fuck out of here.
Yeah, get the fuck out of here.
I mismanaged my millions. Woe is me. Fuck off.
Oh, poor me.
Yeah, because that whole thing didn't work for me at all. I don't give a shit about
I thought that was very stupid. I didn't care about that.
But I will say is like spotty, stupid, like bad performances, uneven plotting, probably a little too long, too many characters, switching the protagonist, all the problems that this movie has. And there are a lot of problems.
There are a lot. I agree.
I think I end up liking this one the best.
Interesting.
Because like by the end of it, I was like, I really felt I have been on a journey with these characters.
I totally agree with you.
I cared about some of them, even if I disagreed with the point of view at certain points of the movie. I thought better way of putting this, I thought this movie was so close to being maybe his best movie.
I don't think you're wrong.
And I'm not saying that he would have to agree with my point of view of life. But he's so close to learning a lesson.
Mm-hmm.
This is the closest John Milius I think ever got on screen of being human.
I mean, I think that there's some of him in this movie, some of his life probably in here somewhere.
It's the young, yeah. He was a young surfer from California. This is him. This is his youth. This is his idealized youth. Yeah.
Yeah. I think you're probably right. It was very close to like hitting all of the points that I wanted it to hit. But
you almost wish like a better director and a better screenwriter could have come alongside him. And
I think this is I think you and I have talked about movies that are like prime for a remake.
Yeah.
I think this could be primed for a remake.
Yeah, but now it'd have to be about the 90s. You know, it's nobody gives a shit about it.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the plot points, I honestly think maybe the most effective plot point in the movie is when, because there were these like surfer documentaries that started to come out like in the late 60s and 70s. And so one of these surfer documentary guys sends him a letter. And it's like, hey, we want Matt, who was like the greatest of the hot doggers.
Yeah.
We have old footage of him from back in the day. We've got like footage from new surfers, whatever. And we want to show the progression of surfing. And we want to honor him, like have him come out to the movie premiere. And he doesn't really want any part of it, but she does because Peggy.
And she says, she's like, your daughter should see you.
Yeah. She should see you doing what you loved. Yeah.
Right.
And so they go to the movie premiere and he ends up getting like 5 seconds in the whole thing.
They're like, this is Matt Brown and look at him go.
Look at him go, anyway, everybody. All right. Anyway, back to the new guy. And there's no word spoken, but it's like he sees himself as he was on the screen and he kind of lightens up.
Yeah.
And he comes alive and his daughter's so proud of him and Peggy is so proud of like she was there, too, and then it's like and nobody reacts. Like there's like
not at all. Yeah.
The crowd goes silent because they're young people. They don't know who he is.
Mm-hmm.
The new generation, because like this is actually like probably one of the better, more subtle things John Milius has ever written. And maybe he didn't write it. Maybe it was the other guy. Throughout the duration of the movie, no matter how belligerent or drunk or much of an asshole Matt is, there's always somebody going, "You're Matt Johnson. You're Matt Johnson." Like he's famous, right? At least in this little community of surfers. He's at the movie premiere. Nobody says hello to him. They're all about like George or whatever, the new guy.
Hans,
and
I don't know.
Nobody cheers for him. And as soon as they cut back to the guy that they had just been watching, everybody cheers again. It's like his era, his time is gone. And then I thought it was really paid off.
Even like slumps back in his chair.
Yeah. He's heartbroken that he's been forgotten.
Like, fuck, man.
Yeah. But then at the very end, when they all three reunite, because the big wave is finally going to come in, and they don't go down the new nice stairs. They go down the condemned stairs, where they used to hang out when they were kids. And now they're middle-aged men.
Correct.
And they go out, and nobody, all the George guy has all the fanfare, and George's going to ride away, George's going to ride away. And they're literally just off the side, and nobody even sees them. They're invisible. And they go out, which, by the way, is kind of what middle age feels like. It's like one day you're right in the thick of it.
It does.
And the next day, nobody cares anymore. Nobody cares about your takes. Nobody cares about what you have to say or what you did or what you do. You're not remarkable anymore. It's all about the new young thing that's coming up. And they don't give a shit anymore. They just want to ride the wave and be together.
Right.
And they're as good as they ever were.
Did we even see that guy get into the water?
No, we
these waves are so big.
We do. He's surfing next to them because he gets out kind of with them, and he looks at them, and he looks at Matt or maybe all of them. He's like, "You guys really were as good as they say you were."
Mm-hmm.
And they just kind of acknowledge it and walk off, and so so the young guy gives them their respect because he wasn't really a dick to him. It was he knew who they were, but he's the flavor of the month, and he was like, "Man, you really are that good." Yeah. And then there's like 3 kids that come up to Matt and are like, they know who he is. "You are Matt Johnson after all, right? Like, we've heard about you, blah, blah, blah." And this board he's been holding on to for 40 years or whatever, some shit. For the big one, he's like, "Here, kid, you can have it." Like, because he's not going to be around when the next one comes. He's going to be too old.
No.
And I'm like, that whole thread I just relayed actually really affected. I thought that was very beautiful. Yeah. It's sad and very real. I wish more of the movie was like that. So I give it a 7.5 out of 10. It's my number 2 for the week. I think I like this one the most, but I can't say it's the best of them.
That's fair. I gave it a 5.25. It is also my number 2 of the week.
We're probably going to agree on number 1, then I'd have to imagine.
I think we're going to. I don't think we have maybe we won't because there's 2 more. So I guess we'll see.
2 more. All right. Well, let's move on to 1982's Conan the Barbarian, which currently has a 67% of Rotten Tomatoes.
Warrior, thief, conqueror, king, Conan.
Let us take the world by the throat and make it give us what we desire.
Conan the Barbarian. Rated R. Starts Friday at a theater near you.
Written, directed, John Milius. Also written by Oliver Stone. It's based on Conan the Barbarian by Robert E. Howard. It is the triumphant return of Arnie, James Earl Jones, rest in peace. Mako, rest in peace. Max von Sydow, rest in peace. Fuck, I'm getting old. The day Arnie dies, I will probably cry. And I'm not even his biggest fan now, but he was so big.
He was
and
such
meant
a big
so
piece.
much for such a formative time of my life.
I agree.
I think it's going to fuck me up when he dies. The film was released May 16th, 1982 in Madrid, May 14th, 1982 in the United States. On a budget of $20 million, it made between $68 and $79 million. This is Arnold's breakthrough.
It is.
It's a breakthrough role. Okay. He may not say much, but when it comes to vengeance, he lets his sword do the talking.
Nah, do it good.
He doesn't even really do that in this. I guess he kind of does.
He does. No, he does. He's like, no, don't. Like he does that kind of thing.
Benny,
I think when he's fighting the snake, it's supposed to be like,
that's true. No, you're right. You're right. Yeah. Sorry. I just watched Total Recall a couple nights ago.
Such a good movie.
4K is incredible of Total Recall. Especially
is it really?
It's really good. Yeah.
Okay. You gotta get those boobs in 4K, huh?
Is this the Northman? Well, let me put it like this. Is the Northman just Conan for Criterion collectors?
Yep.
Okay.
Go ahead. Except I like the Northman more.
Well, yeah. It's more coherent.
It is more coherent.
Even though there are scenes directly lifted from this movie. The sword from the dead guy on the throne from Crom or whatever, that happens in the Northman. Verbatim. I want to give a shout out to, he's still with us. I looked it up. Donald Gibb. You know who Donald Gibb is?
No.
Have you ever seen Revenge of the Nerds?
Yeah.
Do you remember Ogre?
Sure. Yeah.
He's like, nerds.
Yeah, of course.
You just got your ass whipped by a bunch of nerds. Nerds.
That is a great, also fantastic gift.
Yes. I gotta tell you, the greatest scene in movie history is John Goodman's speech at the Sex Olympics or whatever during Revenge of the Nerds when they lose to the nerds.
Also,
that is incredible.
That movie is problematic as fuck.
I'm not going to say that you should watch the movie. Just find that clip. What part of it is problematic? The racism, the homophobia, the sexual assault.
That's played as a joke.
Which sexual assault? The voyeurism, the actual...
The Darth Vader mask?
The Darth Vader non-consensual cunnilingus. Is that your problem, Joe?
That's my problem.
I don't see what the problem is. She liked it. That's the movie's. That's the movie's argument, isn't it?
That is. Yeah.
What's the matter, baby? You can't get mad. You liked it.
Can't get mad. You liked it. You had fun.
It's the 80s. We can do whatever the fuck we want.
That's kind of what they were saying. Yeah.
I will say this: you are never, ever, as a man, supposed to stick your dick in crazy. But when Conan is having sex with that witch.
Boy.
It is a representation of what every man secretly desires.
You know, there are moments in that scene where he was just kind of like, yeah, we'll just ride this out.
That's right. Every man secretly wants to be brought in from the cold to lay next to a fire by a woman of strange ethnic origins and odd piercings who is completely dangerous, and you feel like you are in danger as she dominates you and scratches your back and slowly turns into some kind of a wolf before you have to throw her to the fire, and her disembodied spirit laughs at you and flies off for the night because she was a witch the whole time. Is this
But there is a moment where he was just kind of like, all right, let's just see how far this goes.
Oh, that was the most realistic part of this entire.
Absolutely,
it was. You're calling this a fantasy? This is my Friday night. I just told
this is
Joe
reality,
about it.
Baby.
Joe, did I not just tell you what my Friday was going to be?
You sure did.
This is going to be it. This is the birth of hair metal, right?
Oh no, 82. Oh, maybe.
I mean the fashion. I mean the. We are now in every rock cover is going to be Frazetta.
Yeah.
Everybody's going to have this fucking hairstyle where it's not really a mullet, but it is that long hair. It's
Eddie Munson. It's Eddie Munson in Stranger Things.
The Arnold haircut and the haircut all these dudes have is it's not just dudes with long hair. It's not even, the hair isn't even that big, but it's just, it's a very specific aesthetic that then dominated rock and roll and professional wrestling and pop culture.
Yeah. If you told me
10 years
that Kerry Von Erich was in the running to be Conan the Barbarian, I would believe it.
There you go. That's right.
Yeah.
And if you don't know who that is, if you saw Iron Claw, you know who that is.
Sort of.
Yeah. It's worse.
It's
the performance is okay. I am notoriously, you asked me earlier, do you like Westerns? I said no. I notoriously also don't like sword and sandal movies.
Oh, I see. I do like sword and sandal movies.
I've seen Beastmaster. I've seen the Deathstalkers, the ones that I can find. I've seen Barbarians with the twins. I've seen.
Oh man, yeah, okay.
Red Sonja. Anything
pause,
that
pause.
Yeah,
the fact that Arnold is in Red Sonja as a barbarian, but he's not Conan.
Lindsay wanted to talk
wild.
about that. Can you fill in the details?
As far I don't know the details totally. So
I think they lied to him, right? He like contractually wasn't able to be in the movie, but they like lied to him and then said he was only going to be in like a scene. And he ends up being in most of the movie.
He's the second lead.
Right.
So there are two official Conan the Barbarian movies. There's Conan the Barbarian. There's Conan the Destroyer. There was a remake with Jason Momoa.
I've seen all of I've seen all of those, and that the one with Momoa is fucking terrible.
It has moments where I was like, okay, but then overall, yes, it's not good.
The movie starts with a CGI cesarean C-section.
That is true.
Where Ron Perlman delivers a baby by C-section on the battlefield.
Mm-hmm. That's how badass Conan is.
That's how badass he is. Get the fuck out of here. Yeah. And then he's just, he screams in the battlefield, as his mother dies, what shall we name the child? And Rob Perlman screams, Conan! Garbage.
It's not. I like the violence of that movie.
Yeah.
But that's about it.
What I was going to say, though, is if it's a sword and sandal movie that stars Barbie Benton or Lana Clarkson, I've probably fucking seen it. If it's a sword and sandal movie that stars Penthouse pinups, Penthouse Pets, then I've
Jason's
probably seen it. Yeah.
Because
they were on USA Up All Night.
All the time.
Gilbert Godfrey, or what's her name? What's Miss Big Titty
USA
called?
Up All Night.
Yeah. Oh my God. She's MAGA.
Yeah,
what's her name?
Oh, is she really?
Oh, super MAGA. Oh my God. I can picture her.
I almost said Christy Canyon, but that's somebody very different.
That's Mick Foley's favorite. Rhonda Shear. Yeah. Yeah. If Rhonda Shear introduced a movie that was mostly nudity and that was heavily edited, who's the oh my God, I'm thinking of the one in particular. I think she's in Hell Comes
Shannon
to Frogtown.
Tweed?
Wow, no. She's probably, I think Shannon Tweed probably did some.
Shannon Tweed did a lot.
That's Sandal Bergman.
Oh, okay.
Which, isn't she in this? Isn't she in Conan? Isn't she the warrior woman?
Isn't she the woman with Conan?
She is a Conan the Barbarian. Yeah. Okay. She was in a shit ton of these fucking movies because she's in Red Sonja as well.
She's in like crazy shape and she's believable as a female warrior.
So if the cast of your sword and sorcery movie was mostly hired off of the success of Stewardess School or Ski School or what Big Titty Mountain the movie or whatever.
Yeah,
I've seen those. I gotta say, compared to your Beastmasters or that kind of shit, or even your Deathstalkers 1, 2, or 3, this is an actual movie.
This is a movie
that has production value. Some of these sets are pretty incredible, especially in today's world of nothing but green screen and volume slop.
It looks like they were just filming in a desert.
Yeah,
and they were just building around the desert.
Giant fucking weirdo Frazzetti, Conan cover
formations and
I this is the best He-Man movie that's ever been made. I was looking at this
and I saw Masters of the Universe in theaters.
James Earl Jones is fucking Skeletor in this shit. And he's basically in the Castle Grayskull at the top of that fucking thing, and he has a John Wick.
He's in Skull Mountain. He's
in Skull Mountain. Yeah. And it fucking rules, man.
Yeah.
There's 400 actual people standing there in actual robes. And I was like, this is great. And then Arnold can't act. Sandal Bergman can't act. Nobody in this movie can act. And then James Earl Jones shows up. And you would think that he was in Henry VIII or Othello.
He is going
Hamlet.
for it.
And I would almost say it's hammy, but it kind of is, but it isn't.
No, it is. It is hammy, but it works in this movie.
He brings so much gravitas as this character that he literally acts the rest of the people. You watch them get physically blown off the screen.
Yeah.
As he is playing what is essentially Skeletor.
Yep.
But is this character called Thulsa Doom.
Thulsa Doom.
And I'm just sitting there going, if fucking Oliver Stone and John Milius on $20 million could go to Serbia or fucking Morocco, wherever the fuck this was filmed, and go grab a bodybuilder from Venice Beach and go get Darth Vader and Max von Sydow and Mako and go shoot this movie. Why can't Marvel make good movies? You have characters named Conan the Barbarian, Thulsa Doom, Valeria the Witch, the Princess, Akiro the Wizard, Subotai, King Orsic, Thorgrim, which is Sven Ole Thorgson.
Yep.
A bunch of B-movie actors with a bunch of B-movie characters from B-movie novels. Why can't we make good comic book movies anymore? What the fuck is the problem?
So here's this is what I think this is what happened. Endgame comes out.
Yeah.
And it blows the doors off anything we've seen before it.
Yeah.
Right? It is the culmination of something that is so unprecedented.
Yeah.
Where they made a movie and it was hit after hit after hit and it worked. Everything worked. And they got to the end of Endgame and they were like, shit. Now what? And they got away from their model. They stopped their old, hey, let's take a heist movie. Let's take a teen comedy. Let's take a whatever. They got away from that. And then it just became a Marvel movie. Like, that's what this is going to be. They're going to, whatever.
Yeah, but it's just slop.
Not all of it.
Half of this cast was in fucking Abraxas. And the other half was in Red Sonja or Red Heat or Call the Conqueror or the Viking sagas and all,
Call the Conqueror starring
another right-wing weirdo, Kevin Sorbo.
Kevin Sorbo, yeah.
But my point is, this is not a crew of people. Like, I love Max von Sydow, okay? Speaking of 3 Days of the Condor.
Of the Condor.
But Max von Sydow made a lot of trash, especially this time of his career. For every Exorcist he would make 5 fucking genre movies like this that were junk.
There'd be times where I would watch a movie and I was like, is that fucking Max von Sydow?
That was up until he died. You'd be like, is that fucking Max von Sydow? Why is he in this slop? Right? James Earl Jones made slop. He was in fucking Exorcist 2, The Heretic.
Right.
So I'm not saying this is some great film. This movie is actually really dumb, and it's probably the least charismatic you've ever seen Arnold. That includes Hercules and
Has he ever been bigger?
I don't know. He's fucking
huge
and tanned and
so
fucking
big.
Jacked.
Yeah.
He's never been more handsome than probably Total Recall. He's a good-looking guy.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, but here's my point. This is junk.
Yep.
This is stupid.
In the best way.
But it ends up being kind of in the best way possible. This guy fights a giant fucking snake. And it's a practical effect.
I thought, I got to tell you, I've seen this movie. Maybe I haven't seen it like sequentially.
Yeah.
I always thought that was the end of the movie.
That's a good way to put it. I have seen this movie. I don't know that I've seen it sequentially.
Yeah. I always thought him fighting the giant snake, which I thought was James Earl Jones.
Yeah.
Was how this movie ends.
And that would make sense because James Earl Jones does turn into a snake.
I know. So when we get to the end of this, and I'm sitting here watching it, and I was like, well, when's he gonna turn into the snake? Like, doesn't he fight? Like, I know he fought the one snake earlier, but is he? And then when he just chops his head off, and the end of the movie is him just sitting on the steps of this altar, and I was like, man, I don't remember this at all. And that's how this
Dude.
movie ends. Like, it's
He
wild. that
cuts this
movie just
guy's
ends.
fucking head off. and
His
chucks
supporters
it
and
down to his cult.
yeah, right. And the cult's just kind of like, that was my alarm. Sorry.
Your alarm is Street Fighter.
Oh, it is Street Fighter. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. My ringtone is the Escape from New York theme. So, you know.
You mean 2019, the Battle of New York?
No, I know what I said. Don't you try to bring that shit up. I saw that cover box.
Yeah, and you're like, ooh, I gotta get this.
On something that I had watched. Like, it was like, you recently watched, and I was like, what?
Yeah.
I didn't watch that. And I saw that, and I was like, that fucking movie. That's not an Escape from movie. Get out.
Sergio Martino, baby.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, he kicks the head like down to his followers, and like all his followers are like, so we're done now? Okay. Like, I guess we're just gonna go home. And they all just walk away. Like, they don't make a big deal. And then he rides off into the sunset and to presumably fuck that king's daughter.
That's right. And that's a legend for another time.
Which I think is on the docket. I have heard there have been rumblings that Arnold wants to do a King Conan movie.
Yeah.
And I kind of want to see it. I kind of want to see Old Man Conan.
That's been on and off for like 25 years, though.
It has been. And it is kind of wild that this is a property that I'm almost positive is somewhere in the public domain.
It might be now because those books were old in the 80s.
That's what I'm saying. Like, if you can, Tarzan.
Well, it depends on which books. Obviously, it's been written and rewritten.
I guess that's true.
The original Conans are probably got to be getting close to it.
They've got to be.
Think. Yeah.
I mean, I think Tarzan's in the public domain. Apparently Popeye is, because I just saw what looks like to be one of the worst slasher flicks I've ever seen in my life.
I'm sure not Greg. Oh my God. Old Man Brad from Old Man Brad podcast. I'm sure he's watched it. He watches all those straight to
Oh, does he really?
Public domain movies.
But I mean, like Winnie the Pooh.
He's best friends with the director of those Winnie the Pooh and Blood and Honey.
Then I don't want to disparage anybody. So.
Disparage away.
Those movies are fucking trash.
No, yeah, they're fucking waste of fucking time.
Yeah, I feel the same way about. I kind of feel the same way about Terrifier.
Oh, me too. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Perfect.
Here's my point.
That's how this movie ends.
I went into this going, I don't like these types of movies. I'm not going to like this. Did this keep my attention all the way through? No.
Nope. There's a lot. This I was trying to think about this. This may have been very close to the first set of on-screen boobs I ever saw.
Oh.
It Basic Instinct or this, and I can't remember which one I saw first.
I don't know the first pair of boobs I ever saw.
It was the warrior chick. When he like takes her top off and like grabs her boobs, and I was like, those are boobs on my TV.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, you weren't watching
it was Sharon Stone.
You weren't watching
Basic Instinct.
Well, you saw more than boobs then.
Well, yes. I saw a hardcore sex scene at the beginning of that movie.
So to my surprise, and probably the surprise of people listening at home who know how much I hate most of the movies that fall into the genre. I can't say I hate the genre. That would be contradictory. I would say I give this a 7.75.
Oh man,
out of 10, and it's my number one.
I gave it a 7 out of 10, and it is my number one.
That leaves only one more movie.
Yeah. Can we talk about Arnold Schwarzenegger some more? I'd rather just do that.
I would rather do that as well, but we've already been talking for 3 hours. It's time to wrap this one up. We got to talk about Red Dawn, which came out in 1984, has a 48% Rotten Tomatoes.
Calumet, Colorado, population 8,200. Before the sun sets, foreign soldiers will march victorious through the streets.
Get in!
8 high school students will take to the mountains, fight for freedom, and become a symbol to unite America.
Not bad for a bunch of kids. Wolverines!
Red Dawn, rated PG-13. Starts Friday, August 10th. Check newspapers for a selected theater near you.
Obviously, Milius directed this one, and screenplay by Kevin Reynolds, John Milius, story by Kevin Reynolds. It's a triumphant return of Patrick Swayze, C. Thomas Howell, Leah Thompson, Ben Johnson, Harry Dean Stanton, Ron O'Neal, William Smith, and Powers Booth. God damn it!
Yes,
I love me. Last time Powers Booth was on, you and I were talking about Die Hard ripoffs, I think.
Oh, is that right?
Or Van Damme movies or something. Wasn't that you? Maybe it wasn't.
No, I'll talk about some fucking Van Damme movies.
Didn't we talk about Sudden Death?
I don't think so.
We did, didn't we? It's a Peter Hyams movie.
Yeah, but I don't think we.
It's all
did
blurring
that.
together, Joe. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know who I am. Does Powers Booth fuck Leah Thompson? Probably.
100% does. Powers Booth, who looks like he's about 45. Leah Thompson, who's about 16 or 17.
Jesus Christ. This is a boomer's fantasy about sexy Gen X preteens who kill commies for Papa Reagan 4 decades before they'd all vote for Putin.
That's so good.
I'll tell you what pisses me off here, Joe. I know you probably have a synopsis. I got to get this out of my...
do it.
I got to cleanse my spirit. I'll tell you what pisses me off. As a kid who grew up in the Midwest, I grew up in what was once a purple area. What I mean by that is it was red and blue, and even in the same county it mixed. And so when you looked at the way people voted before a lot of gerrymandering and right-wing shenanigans, it was redistricting. It was purple. So therefore, kind of what we would classify as moderate. We did not identify with the ultra right-wing machismo of Ronald Reagan's America because Reagan had busted our steel unions, gutted our manufacturing, and left us and our cities for dead. He sold us out to Wall Street. He bankrupted our savings and loans. He ignored the AIDS crisis while our friends and family were dying, and he militarized local police to kill our black folks. And that was the real legacy and is the real legacy of the so-called mourning in America. But we also didn't identify with coastal elites either, right? We did with the ones who sneer at the very idea of right and wrong or morality or Midwest nice, the ones who told us that evil was just a social construct and everything was relative and therefore everything was lawful. We didn't identify with those people either because we were what we thought were moderates. We understood the necessity of self-defense, but we also saw the truth in movies like RoboCop, right?
Absolutely. That's a great call. Yep.
We understood political satire. We understood that corporations shouldn't be trusted. And we understood that violence came with consequences. And so, you're right. You were nice until you couldn't be nice. And now the same kids who went to movie theaters in 1984 to watch Red Dawn are the ones screaming about from my cold, dead hands, you'll take this gun, are the same ones who have sold this country out in real life to the Kremlin. After all their grandstanding, all their bluster, all their Second Amendment tough guy bullshit, it turns out that they were just fucking traitorous pussies. And for all their talk of rugged individualism, it was never about personal freedom. It was always about keeping their boots on somebody else's neck. They have clung to their assault rifles while innocent children were mowed down in nursery schools because those weapons were actually never meant to fight tyranny. They were meant to keep women, gays, and black folks in check. And guess what? All those tofu-eating, self-righteous elites were right about them all along. These people, these fucks are so cowardly, they fear books. Do you know how weak-minded of a person you have to be to fear words? Printed ink on a page sends a cold shiver down their spineless backs. They claim to see the future, but they can't even recognize Kremlin-run Facebook state propaganda when it's shoved in their goddamn faces. Their heroism, their bravery, and especially their so-called patriotism have been a lie from day one. It was said before, I will say it again, and now I mean it in both senses of the word, whether you're talking about Moscow or DC, better dead than red.
Get him, buddy.
Am I being too political now for you, John Milius? Fuck out of here. This entire movie, okay? is fucking propaganda. Now we're going to go in,
the whole
John.
thing.
Now we're going in, John, on your political ideology. John Milius has quoted himself as saying, "It might not have been might not have been bad for this country if Douglas MacArthur had crossed the Mississippi like Caesar crossed the Rubicon and proclaimed himself Emperor Douglas I." Now, what part of small government suggests that a general should make himself president and seize the presidency by marching an army over the river and declaring himself emperor? What part of small government has emperors?
That's a good question.
He also says to himself, "I'm not a reactionary. I'm not a right-wing extremist. I'm so far beyond the Christian identity people like that and stuff that they can't even imagine. I'm so far beyond them that I'm a Maoist." This guy identifies with Chairman Mao. Any true, and here we go. These are all quotes from him. Any true real right-winger, if he goes far enough, hates all forms of government because government should be done to cattle and not human beings, except for when you need unemployment or you want retirement or you need health care or you want
kids
clean,
that need to eat,
or kids that need to eat, or you want to be able to trust your drinking water to be able to drink it, or you want to be able to breathe your fucking air. Or you want to be able to go to the grocery store and buy meat and make sure it isn't fucking poison.
Yep.
That whole concept of individualism works if you are the only person trying to abide by those rules, because it's the rest of us that keep up and maintain the system that allows you to live your self-centered, selfish, short-sighted, myopic life. Go fuck yourself. Now, the original screenplay for this movie was actually an anti-war movie. The Kevin Reynolds movie was an anti-war movie. But you know what happened? A little group called the Hudson Institute. Well, what's the Hudson Institute? It's a right-wing think tank sponsored by the Rand Corporation. Got a hold of the script and actively filled it with propaganda. They had right-wing propagandists who were embedded into the real-life intelligence agencies of the United States rewrite a pacifist script, an anti-war movie, to turn it into right-wing propaganda for the Reagan generation. Now, this is the thing about these right-wingers. They are so convinced that the rest of us are trying to brainwash kids when they're the ones that hire evil corporations that get CIA propagandists to put fucking CIA propaganda in a movie sold to teenagers in the 80s. This movie set the record for the most acts of violence ever on film at 134 acts of violence.
I will say, the opening scene of this movie is insane.
Oh, the whole movie's insane.
Yeah,
now,
but
now wait. Let me quote Milius one more time.
Oh yeah.
Milius says this film isn't even violent. The war shows none of the actual horrors that would have happened in World War III. Milius's claim about the movie is that it's too censored, didn't go far enough. It's not right-wing enough. It's not violent enough, that he had to really kind of censor down from what he wanted it to be. That's who you're dealing with.
Do you think so? We're in the height of the Brat Pack.
Yes.
Like we are in full swing. These kids have taken over Hollywood, and not in a bad way. They are pumping out some of the most iconic and long-standing.
These kids are Brat Pack kind of adjacent, though, right?
I don't think so. I think Leah Thompson. Oh no, Charlie Sheen is absolutely in the group. Swayze is too old. I think
Swayze's too old for this fucking movie.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. Leah Thompson is absolutely in that conversation. She's in the Brat Pack documentary saying she wasn't in the Brat Pack. Interesting. She said of herself, I'm Brat Pack adjacent. She does. Who's the guy that made the Brat Pack movie that was like crying about the fact that they called him the Brat Pack? He made a documentary with 20 different cameras to film himself. Came out about a year ago. Not Anthony Michael Hall. No. Anthony Michael Hall doesn't even appear in the movie and isn't even mentioned, I don't think. Well, he has a real awkward conversation with Emilio. This guy has a real awkward conversation with Emilio Estevez at his ranch, and Emilio looks like he doesn't want the guy to be there. It's fucking crazy. The only person that even is like halfway interested in him is Demi Moore, and her whole spiel to him is a very nice way of saying, it's the one from Weekend at Bernie's. Andrew McCarthy. Oh, Jonathan Schwartzman? No, Andrew McCarthy. The other guy? Yes. Okay. And she's like basically like, just go to therapy, you know? Just go to therapy. Good for her. Also, glad
Says
to
it
see
as
her
pleasant
getting a
as a
little,
peach, but just basically
glad to see her getting some love there at the Academy.
Yeah, especially with her past struggles and whatnot. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think that's fantastic. C. Thomas Howell I think he's in that.
Yeah.
For sure.
Mm-hmm.
Powers Booth is not.
Powers Booth is 50 years old. And he's fucking Leah Thompson. By the way, that was a subplot, and Leah Thompson has said that the original cut of the movie was better because it featured a love scene between her and Powers Booth, but it was cut after some previews, to quote her, because of the age difference.
Yeah, there's an age difference there, Leah. And here's the thing.
He says he's married with kids.
Well, he does say that, but he's also just kind of like, don't know where they are. Guess I'm going to fuck this child.
Yeah, that's
don't
crazy,
know if they're
John
alive.
Milius. I don't know if my grown ass adult wife and daughter's alive, so I'll fuck someone my daughter's age. That's fucking insane.
Lee. I think Leah Thompson to this day is stunningly gorgeous.
Well,
to this day,
you have a certain penchant for a woman of a certain age. Nina Hartley revealed that.
That's true. I've had a penchant for Leah Thompson.
Old ladies, is that what you're saying? You have a penchant for
that's right. Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. Since like Howard the Duck and Back to the Future.
Howard the Duck's wild because she fucks a duck in that movie, Joe.
She does fuck a duck. You're Back to the Future tries to fuck her son.
What? Okay, wait a minute. Leah Thompson's in a movie where she. Now, I'm not trying to make fun of this, but we have to go back here for a second.
You've got to. There's a track record.
When Leah Thompson appears in this movie, it's because her grandpa is hiding her and Jennifer Grey.
Jennifer Grey is absolutely in the Brat Pack. Absolutely.
It's like the girls are not going to have very much autonomy when the grandpa opens up the cellar and they're hiding inside of it, and then it's implied that somebody sodomized
Jennifer Grey.
Yeah, because he's like, stick it up your ass. And then Jennifer Grey, don't you ever talk about sticking it up my ass.
Oh no, that is Jennifer Grey. Yeah. That has that reaction. Yeah.
Yeah, and you're like, the idea here is that these girls were sodomized? By
their grandfather?
No, I think it was by the Russians, right?
Oh, maybe.
The Russians had sodomized her. Very, very strange. So then to follow that up with the other granddaughter is going to want to have sex with Powers Booth, who's a very old looking man. Even if he's 35.
I was like,
he's
then
55
he looked old
looking. Yeah, it's the morality of this is so strange. At one point, I just wrote down in my notes, if there was at any point any humanity or art, it has been stripped away from whatever this movie was supposed to be. That's before I knew that it was originally written as a completely
I didn't realize that
film.
it was supposed to be anti-war.
It was hijacked by the Rand Corporation, which is real dark shit. Then I found a quote by Powers Booth after I wrote that down. And this is a quote from Powers directly. Milius cut out the emotional life of its characters. Originally, my entire character was anti-war. And then he goes on from there. So I'm like, when I wrote, they cut all the humanity has been stripped away. It literally was stripped away because the actors in the movie were like, this isn't the movie we thought we were making. You show up to make one movie. John Milius shows up with his rewritten right-wing, ultra-right-wing Rand Corporation script and says, you're doing this now, which essentially just glorifies being a child soldier. And
it says that like you don't need anybody. You can go into the woods and
with guns.
As long as you are, as long as you fight hard enough, you can kill all of the Cuban / Soviet soldiers.
Yes, that communism is the world's greatest evil.
Yeah.
And so if anybody tries to get you to join a trade union, you should shoot them in the head and hide in the woods. That is effectively.
You're not wrong.
And if you meet a sexy teenager, you can fuck her.
You can fuck her. Yeah.
That's fucked up. That's fucked up.
In Powers Booth's defense, she did try to have sex with the duck and her son. So
has anybody ever sat her down and said, now, I realize times were tough for women in Hollywood in the 1980s. But your three biggest movies, you're trying to fuck somebody you shouldn't.
Is she and she's having a baby?
I don't know, but her 3 biggest movies are Red Dawn, Howard the Duck, and Back to the Future.
Yeah, and she's
and in
trying.
each one,
Somebody's trying to fuck her. Or she's
and each
trying to
one,
fuck somebody.
she's trying to sexually assault because Howard is not comfortable with it. She's making moves on Howard. Marty's obviously not comfortable.
Marty
with it.
is like, absolutely not.
What are we doing here?
Yeah, right.
Miss Thompson. Her daughter Zoe
together.
Deutsch is the second coming of her, though. Looks just like her.
It's eerie how much she looks like.
And the weirdest thing she's trying to fuck is Jesse Eisenberg, which I don't know. I'd rather fuck a duck, I think.
than Lex Luthor slash Mark Zuckerberg.
Boy.
Yeah.
Zack Snyder was right
Those
about
are
one
2
thing.
roles.
Or I guess technically Fincher was right.
Fincher was right.
Yeah. I give this movie a 0 out of 10. I hated this movie.
I gave it a 3.2.
This is barely a movie, Joe. These are not characters. There aren't scenes. It's just violence.
Yeah.
And I host a movie called The Slashers.
That's true. What's coming back?
Show. I host a show called It's Not a Movie. Yeah.
It's coming back.
It's coming back. Yes.
Hot damn. Congratulations.
Hot damn.
But okay. So I'm grading this on a scale of everything that we have watched in this. Also, I'm never going to be mad when Jason asks me on this show.
Yeah.
It's never going to happen. I'm going to, if he wants me here, I'm going to show up. You ever make me watch 5 more movies like this again?
These movies suck, man.
This is so I like on the scale of like
put together.
I have seen Red Dawn more than I've seen Jeremiah Johnson, Big Wednesday, or Dillinger.
Yeah, right.
You know?
Yeah.
So there is a level, it's hard to take out the nostalgia because this was like a Saturday afternoon, something that would pop on, and you don't, when I was a kid,
you're talking about Red Dawn?
See it. Yeah. You don't see the propaganda. You just see a bunch of actors that you recognize.
That's right.
Fighting off, trying to save their town.
It's a cartoon.
It is very much a cartoon.
Yeah.
And I think I almost think in the remake, they kill Chris Hemsworth like quick.
I think that's right.
Like that was the twist.
I gotta go be Thor. I'm out.
Yeah. They did that to him twice.
That's right.
They're like, hey, the Cabin in the Woods movie until Thor comes out.
Who played Duke in those G.I. Joe movies, and they had to kill him
Channing
off?
Tatum.
Yeah. Channing Tatum's like, I've got a real franchise now. You're gonna have to kill me in the second one in the first 5 minutes, even though I am the main G.I. Joe.
We're gonna bring you right back because it's testing so bad. So like Red Dawn is one of those movies that I have seen a lot. I own the Shout Factory 4K.
Yeah.
I will say their 4K looks great until you get to the last 10 minutes of the movie and it stops working. So I had to switch it to the Blu-ray and get it to finish.
Wait. What do you mean it stops working?
Like it starts to the movie, the disc, the 4K disc, like starts to like lock up and glitch. But when I switch to the Blu-ray disc, it works just fine.
Is it possible that it's just your disc? You're saying,
it's possible.
But yeah, you're making
I'm sorry. I mean the one that I own.
Blu-rays.
No. I'm sorry. The 4K copy that I own.
Gotcha.
That's what happened while I was watching.
All right. I was like,
sorry.
Because Shout Factories had known defects in their discs.
They have.
So I'm like, are you telling us of a consumer? We don't have a consumer protection bureau anymore. So are you telling us that?
I mean, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know. I do not have issues with their products often. This is one of the first times that I've run into an issue with their products.
Yeah.
But it is my number 3 of the week. But there is a level of nostalgia that is hard to take out of this movie. It's not good. None of these movies are good.
Not really. No.
This is a sliding scale.
I think that you have the unintended consequence of binge movies, which is in the title.
Yeah.
Which is that if you were to watch any of these movies by themselves, you'd be like, it's not that wasn't very good or whatever, or uneven or.
Yeah.
But when you watch them back to back, when you have a writer and director who is so specific in their voice,
mm-hmm.
Whether he knowingly or unknowingly does it seems like he knowingly does it. He front loads his movies with almost all of these movies have a character, whether it's the Grizz Hunter or whether it is Bear or whether it is
Dillinger.
Yeah. There's some random character who is screaming at the top of their lungs to nobody, to nature, to God, to the heavens, about basically going on like a libertarian rant about how no gods can tell us what to do. We're free. Well, nature bends its knee to us. Like it's just like every movie. When every movie has a character like that just gets a unedited monologue screaming into the void, you are literally just putting your politics front and center into the movie.
Very much so.
And that's on top of all of the fetishizing of authoritarian rulers. And because
I think that's the thing is I briefly talked about the Clancy stuff where that is definitely right leaning.
Yeah.
100%. But it doesn't feel as offensive as these movies, which is weird because Milius wrote some of those.
Maybe it's because he's also working with source material, though.
That could be. And again, I think it also has to do
kind
with
of right-leaning,
Alec Baldwin and Sean Connery and Harrison Ford, and he's dealing with actors who have a certain level of charm.
Mm-hmm.
That you're just kind of like, oh, these guys, like go get them, Jack. Like you're on the side, you're on Jack Ryan's side the entire time because there is a level of comfortability that you find in Harrison Ford. Maybe not so much in Chris Pine or John Krasinski, but
I don't find nothing in John Krasinski. Go fuck himself, that guy.
I don't know. He doesn't bother me. Let's see, whatever. Wait until he shows back up as Reed Richards. So while I do think that it is a very hard line to walk when you start inserting your politics into things, there's a way to do it. And some people are very good at doing it. And I don't mind that. I don't mind watching Clear and Present Danger, Air Force One, which is, I think that's basically a Jack Ryan movie. They just don't call it that. But then you get to these movies and you're like, fuck, dude, like, okay, we get it. Your your complaints have been registered with the manager. Like, shut the fuck up.
I mean, when you have a character like, yeah, you're right. Here's a subtle difference. I think between how people interpret media. I think if you're the sort of person who is very much a literalist and demand, let me back that up and let me say it a different way. I think people who in America who are right leaning are tend to be more, or I'm trying to be as even handed as possible, tend to be more favorable towards literalism.
Interesting. Okay.
And I think that people who are left leaning tend to be more comfortable with abstraction and metaphor.
I think that's a fair.
And that's why there's the old argument that people on the right can't make art. You've never seen a real true right-wing movie that's any good because they're just very literal. And so when you have Conan's very few words that he speaks in his life, in this movie be to tell effectively his God to go to hell because he needs to know God because he can fight his battles himself.
But then he praises his God when he wins.
That's right.
Yeah.
Which that ought to tell you something about how those people are
Correct.
right? If you don't help me, go fuck yourself. If you do help me, I'll praise you. Right? There's something there. But also, the other thing, the most famous quote of this movie that 2/3 of the world looks at as a ridiculous fucking meme to be laughed at because of how it's kind of boneheaded and stupid and one-dimensional it is Conan, what is best in life?
Yeah.
To crush your enemies, see them driven before you, and hear the lamentation of their women.
Lamentations from the women.
We laugh at that because it's such a ridiculous, over-the-top, machismo bullshit line. It comes from Genghis Khan, or it's a paraphrase of an actual Genghis Khan quote.
Right.
But then what you realize is that the guys like Oliver Stone and John Milius who write that stuff and who put a Genghis Khan quote into Conan's mouth is because that's what they literally think power is.
Oh, yeah. You know, it's funny. I was just thinking
it's
about
not ironic to them.
No.
That is their ideal of what power in the world should look like.
And masculinity.
And by the way, Joe, we laugh at it because we're like, how fucking funny and stupid and silly or whatever, right?
Right.
But that's dangerous shit. If you think that what is best in your life is not to have empathy, but to crush and to drive people out and
to take their women.
Hear the lamentations of their women.
Right.
The mourning. Right. And so, there's the thing that people say now, the cruelty is the point. So when you see these policies that are coming out in the United States and elsewhere around the world, where you have these Putin types and so forth and so on. And we look at women and children and human beings who are being separated from their families, we see their lamentation, and it causes a righteous anger and grief and sadness to rise up in us.
Right.
And we go, this is a fucking injustice. This is inhumane. And they get off on it because that to them is what's best in life. What's best in life for you, Joe, is to love and protect your kids. What's best in life for people like them is to cause you and your daughters suffering.
Yeah, it's funny.
That's fucked up.
Well, what's funny is I rewatched all of Daredevil leading up to Born Again. And John Bernthal as the Punisher has, the Punisher in the comic books, his arc is pretty normal, right? Like, oh, you jaywalk, I'm gonna shoot you. Right. Like that's, I'm being sarcastic, but that's, he has spoilers for Daredevil Born Again. He shows up in the show as Frank Castle. John Bernthal, to me, has this very interesting way of being masculine and but walking that line of toxic masculinity where Matt Murdock is the angel and obviously Frank is the devil.
Mm-hmm.
And seeing all of these men in this movie, a lot of them remind me of the Punisher. Like they remind me of Solo, I don't need anybody. But they don't come off as sympathetic. None of them do. I mean, I guess that's not true. Robert Redford does because of what happens to him. Mm-hmm. But John Bernthal's take on the Punisher, while he is in the wrong, there is a level of vulnerability that he shows in Born Again that does exactly what we're talking about. Where okay, your actions are wrong, but I kind of can understand why you are the way you are. The line is basically a certain character dies and Frank Castle says to Matt Murdock, you hear his voice. Anytime, what, yada, 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 for whatever reason, I hear my son's voice. Every time I go out there, I hear him in my head, because he was taken from him. Mm-hmm. So there's a level of understanding to that portrayal of a character that would fit seamlessly into these movies, but be completely unsympathetic. And Milius would write that character in a way where he takes all sympathy out, because none of these characters have that sympathy.
Well, they're not human. They're not people.
That's exactly it. And the
You're talking
Punisher,
about humanity.
yeah, the Punisher
Yeah.
typically doesn't have any humanity, but John Bernthal and the writers of that show are able to take this character and give him a level of humanity, because that's how skilled they are. Milius does not have
what you're
that
saying
ability.
is it gives him a level of humanity where you understand him, but you're not. He's not absolved of what he's doing.
No, we know he's not a good guy.
Right. Yeah.
But
no,
but at the same time, you're like, oh, okay, like,
yeah,
your
but see,
family
that's
was
abstract
murdered in front of you.
But what you just described is that plays in not black and white. That's gray.
It's a gray area,
right? Which is, I understand.
And Milius can't do that.
That's right. I understand why you do what you do, but it's still wrong.
Yeah.
I sympathize. I have empathy for your pain, Frank, because an injustice stole your family, right?
Yes.
And left you for dead. And that happens to a lot of people, and you see it every day. You see scumbags walking free because the system is broken, and meanwhile the people they've hurt and raped and murdered and killed are dead. They're not getting their life back, and their loved ones aren't getting them back. So I understand why you choose to be judge, jury, and executioner, but morally it's still wrong.
Yes.
And that uncomfortable tension of, even if I agree with what you're doing, my conscience cannot allow me to ever become like you, Frank, because I have to keep my humanity. I cannot become a monster fighting monster. But when you are a literalist, that all your world revolves around is hierarchy and control and power of the social order, which is what right-wingers are.
Right.
You can't deal with ambiguity.
Nope.
Your entire worldview is about eliminating ambiguity. Right. They'll argue with it. There is no ambiguity. It's black and white. There's good and evil. We're always good and everybody else is always evil.
Right.
And the other argument is, well, right. It's the other argument is George Lucas.
Sure.
You told me my father was dead. Well, that was the truth from a certain point of view.
Right. Your father is dead.
Your father is dead. This guy's not your right. And so,
well, they even that's a great call, because
that's
they
also,
even
by the way, why modern right wingers fucking hate Star Wars.
Right. Well,
Star Wars has always been left wing coded.
Oh yeah, big time. But even in Obi-Wan, at that last, this is not. I'm spoiling that. If you haven't seen it, too bad. It's old.
Yeah.
When you've got Darth Vader's helmet split down the middle, and Anakin's face is in the blue,
which, by the way,
switches to red.
Not much of a metaphor right there either. That's pretty.
Not at all.
We're getting into
a little spot on,
right?
But he says, Obi-Wan has been racked with guilt that he failed Anakin Skywalker, that he failed Anakin, and Anakin fell to the dark side because Obi-Wan couldn't save him. When Anakin says, "You didn't do it.
Yeah,
I did it.
I did.
I killed Anakin Skywalker.
Yeah.
You weren't going to save him no matter what you did."
Yeah.
So that changes, it does kind of change when Ben Kenobi says that Darth Vader killed your father.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what happened. Like, your father is dead. Darth Vader killed him. There was nothing that could be done that was going to save your dad. So you're right, is some people are unable to recognize a gray area.
In real life, there's not a limited supply of humanity.
Yeah.
So and human dignity, which means if I have human dignity and they have human dignity, whoever they is, immigrants, people of color, trans folks, people who participate in drag, because you don't have to be trans to participate in drag.
Yeah.
LGBTQ people, list goes on and on, you know, whatever. Women who get abortions, whatever the case is, the handicapped, the disabled, differently abled, whatever, whoever it is, whatever, pick a marginalized group.
Sure.
If I give them an equal amount of dignity that I get out of life or that you get out of life, I don't suddenly have less.
Bingo.
Nothing is taken from me to give them equity.
Nope.
Their equality doesn't take anything from me. It doesn't cost me anything. Nothing.
Nope.
So what is with this scarcity mindset that I have to hoard everything for myself, including intangible things that don't actually exist, like dignity and humanity, that are concepts? I have to hoard this all for myself, and nobody else can have it, because if anybody else has it, then I'm suddenly less than. I would say that you don't really know who you are, and you're not confident in your own being, and you don't have what psychologists would call an internal locus of control, that you don't actually have a solid core self. If you're threatened by somebody dressing in drag and doing bingo,
yeah, like what? Look in the mirror, bro.
You're weak, man.
You're
a fucking pussy.
Do you have
there's
to,
no other word for it.
Do you have to understand it? No. You don't have to understand why they like to do that. Why do you like to go, this is just hypothetical. Why do you like to go fishing?
Yeah.
Why do you like to read a book? Why do you like to go see a movie? Why do you like to do what you like to do?
Why do you like to listen to two guys talk about John Milius for 2.5 hours?
That is fine.
Yeah.
Like, that's what you're into. That's what they're into. They are hurting no one.
I'm such a libertarian. I want to be able to be free to live my life however I want, except for I want to ban and burn books.
That's right.
That's the contradictory nature of it.
Right.
You don't actually want freedom. You want freedom of responsibility for yourself.
Correct.
You want to be able to do whatever you want to be able to do, and you don't want to be bothered by other people's freedom. But if we're not all free, none of us are free.
That's exactly it.
So I want that too. I also want personal freedom, but that means I live in a pluralistic society with people from all over the map as far as what their viewpoints are. I don't understand my own viewpoints 99% of the time. Who the fuck am I to police somebody else? You know what I'm saying?
That's exactly it.
That's right. And the only time that I'm going to speak up is exactly what you're saying. When you are actively trying to hurt, harm, or take away from people who are not as privileged,
who are just trying to live their life,
who are just trying to live their fucking
life
as
authentically as possible.
Yeah,
they have a right to do that,
and they have the right to do that. Otherwise, if that's if your point of view is you want to be Jeremiah Johnson and hate everybody and go live off in the woods,
go for it, bud.
Go for it. I vote for you to have the freedom to be able to go and do that. And if you choose to never pay taxes, that's great, unless you're a billionaire because you stole it from the working class.
Then you're a piece of shit.
Then you're fucking paying taxes. But if you're just some guy who wants to go live, I don't give a shit. No. Just don't shoot up my kid's school. Don't blow up the mall or church. Don't burn crosses in somebody's yard because of the color of their skin. And don't try to take away somebody's right to be able to marry whoever the fuck they want to marry, between consenting adults.
There is a wild documentary.
If you want to be free and go mind your fucking business. Leave the rest of us alone, motherfucker.
Well,
we don't want you here either.
We don't.
All right, it's time for a recap.
Woohoo!
Joe is 2 seconds away from telling us why the fluoride is turning the frogs gay.
I'm not. No.
Because of Ruby Ridge.
No.
But
No, that's not what I'm saying.
Coming in dead last for me is Red Dawn. 0 out of 10. Stick that fucker in the anti-vault. Number 4 is Dillinger. It has its moments, but boy, is it really just a moment because this shit's one note. I give that 5 out of 10, I think. Number 3 is Jeremiah Johnson. The last 30, 40 minutes are pretty great. That's all you really need to watch. I give it a 6.25 out of 10. Big Wednesday. Surprise of the week. Almost a good movie.
Almost.
The one I'm most likely to rewatch and kind of the closest thing to humanity. John Milius.
Very close.
Ever come. Big Wednesday. 7.5 out of 10. Number 2. And number 1. They went from humanity to basically Arnold pretending to be a slab of meat.
No.
Crumb, fuck
No,
you,
do
Crumb.
No, to Crumb!
Crumb, go to hell.
Go to hell!
Conan the Barbarian, 7.75 out of 10. Joe, what's your recap?
My recap, coming in dead last, number 5, Dillinger with a 1.75.
Yeah.
Then coming in, oh man, I lost it. There it is. Coming in at number 4, I had Jeremiah Johnson at a 3. Coming in at number 3, I had Red Dawn at 3.25. Coming in at number 2, Big Wednesday with a 5.25. Then coming in at number 1, by Crom, Conan the Barbarian with a 7. Oh, that we did want to say. Red Sonja.
Yeah.
He is in that movie.
Yeah.
Not as Conan the Barbarian, just a random dude. And then he's on the cover. He's on the cover of that movie, and he looks just like Conan the Barbarian.
I mean, he is Conan the Barbarian.
He is Conan the Barbarian.
He's a legally distinct Conan the Barbarian. Just enough not to get sued.
That's right. That's right. Also, the Bridget Nielsen experiment died quickly after Red Sonja.
Boy, ain't that the truth?
Yeah, sure is.
Okay. I give this episode.
This is one of the few times that
2 out of 10.
Yeah, the directors, like, normally you when you brought me on for De Palma, I was all in, baby.
And you see you see ups and downs and
ebbs and flows, but still, like that De Palma, I will tell you, it's still out there.
Yeah.
There is not a bad movie in that bunch.
This is just kind of a straight.
This is
line.
like, woo. Yeah, this is.
All right, on our next episode, we'll be talking about the top grossing movies of 2008, 10 through 6, which includes The Chronicles of Narnia, Prince Caspian. Speaking of falling asleep,
Getting a
during the
remake.
dailies. Number 9, Wall-E. Number 8, Iron Man. Number 7, Quantum of Solace. Number 6, Madagascar, Escape to Africa. You couldn't pick a more different set of movies from the ones we just talked about, but Joe, I was going to call you John because of John Milius. Joe Milius, when you're not here espousing your right-wing propaganda, where can we find you, you bastard?
You can find me on my left-leaning podcast, Real Spoilers, Real with 2 E's.
But here's the thing, though. You even it out. You have a left-leaning podcast, but then you go be a right-leaning cop, if you know what I mean.
God damn it. That's not true.
Yeah.
At all. I openly make fun of a certain president in roll call just to piss off the people that voted for him.
Oh, my God.
So yeah, you can find the Real Spoilers. We're on all the podcast apps. You can join we have a Facebook group called the League of Show Sharers. So that's Real Spoilers, Real with 2 E's, League of Show Sharers. You can find us there. We do have a Patreon. We're still working on the Saturday Night Live movies, given the 50th anniversary of SNL. There's a Blues Brothers is out there. Wayne's World 1 and 2 is out there. We're working on Coneheads coming up here in a little bit.
Coneheads, the Barbarians.
Coneheads the Barbarian. You can follow me on Twitter at Joey Butts.
Speaking of fascism, yeah.
Yes, correct. Fair. But you can also follow me on Blue Sky at Joey Butts.
You're not very active on there.
I'm not very active. You're right. I do need to get more active on there. And I'm on Threads at Joey Butts BUTTS 20.
Also fascist coded.
I know.
Yeah.
All of it is really.
America's fascist coded right now.
There it is. There we go.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Go find Joe at Real Spoilers. You can find the show on all available podcasts. Go support their Patreon. Go become a patron. Their Patreon. You can listen to his Matt F. Basler still doing most of those with you.
Oh yeah, he's my buddy. He's my co-host.
Okay. Is Kevin still doing a video game podcast?
I have no idea.
Is Tom still talking about old-timey TV shows like Mother's Bucket?
Without question.
Okay, all right.
100%.
All right. On that note, until next time, binge on.